Since we're waiting, might as well kind of walk through a little bit of things, talk about what we're gonna do content-wise and what this stream is gonna be. Our goal is to learn things. We are doing this solely as research. We are taking the nerd approach, I guess, when it comes to content today. I plan on doing a 3-star school rebuild. We'll do a 1-star school rebuild. We'll probably go through quick ones. We're not really gonna sit and do a long-term rebuild right now. This is fully for experimentation. It's fully for the live stream.
Standing outside. It's been a while since I've been outside. This is a big undertaking for me. It's not a type of content that I normally make. As you can see by my dumb self, who was not aware of what he was going to get himself into, I had no intentions of originally making this into a large-scale YouTube video. This was 33 hours of footage filmed over 4 days. That's a lot to go through. And so you're going to see a different editing style that I don't really do. And if you're new here, you're going to see a style that I'm probably not going to replicate too often. And I give a lot of credit to other creators like Bordeaux, Brandon TS, and Bengal, and all these big guys who pump out rebuilds as quickly as they do in the football genre, because this was not easy. This is so much to do. Now, I know they have editors. I know they have people to help them. And I was doing this all on my own. No disrespect to them, by the way. This is so much. Post-commentary is a lot. To go through 33 hours of footage, trim it down into something consumable, and still have some sort of narrative is way different than normal content. Now, like I said, we did not go in with the intention of making this into a YouTube video. We just stuck with it by the end of it. And that changes a little bit of what things end up looking like, because I'm trying to do something different than what I normally see in people's college football videos. I think it's important to tell you the stories of individual players, to develop them and help create a narrative around individual players to make them more interesting, because I think there's great stories in college football. The sport itself is just football. It's all about what you do with it to tell something great.
This shit up right now.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone and their mother and their father and their uncle
And their children.
and their children's children too.
There it
Can't
goes.
reach, can't use it. All right, there we go. Here we are. College football 25. I don't even know what I need to make a school my favorite. I don't even know which one it's gonna be.
You can pick one.
I'm wearing my hat.
Oh, I need my UTSA hat.
We're gonna go with Iowa State here, just showing our team, and then the contract is we are gonna sign as AJ Klein on the dotted line.
Now, I don't have any allegiances to any team, so why did I pick Iowa State? Well, I think the only thing I could brilliantly bring that's close to the table is AJ Klein, who went to the same high school that I did. In addition, Iowa State also happens to be the alma mater of my friend Thomas, who you will meet in future videos, as well as if you've seen my content, he also made the Kleptomaniac song. It also happens to appeal to my Midwestern bias.
And so our team is going to have Rocco Becht as our starting quarterback to start our franchise. Sophomore quarterback who's got a big arm. He'll be really interesting, as we'll have him for several years. He's already got some traits. And we got some interesting backups as well in like J.J. Cole, though I don't think Moberly is really anything special. He's a freshman. We'll redshirt him and see what he could be down the road as a potential quarterback. A little bit more speed maybe as we look. Now, we also have more weapons around on this team that we need to look at, but this is a new introduction. This is a 3-star school. We're looking at different players that we haven't normally seen a lot of. Another big weapon is going to be Abu Sama, the 85 overall sophomore halfback, who once again could be really good by the time he's a senior. We'd like to see these guys who are younger and are at the top of the depth chart. This team is different for me. I haven't necessarily played with a team where I don't know who any of these players are. They've got 2 senior wide receivers at the top who could be really interesting, but our tight end, my favorite position, is a 82 overall sophomore. And once again, sophomores, super valuable. Now, I do think this team has some significant weaknesses. One of those being the offensive line, which means that we are going to have to pursue offensive linemen pretty quickly in the development of this team in order to try to actually create some talent. Iowa, our rival in the Big Ten, is going to have a lot more offensive linemen that we're going to have to worry about, meaning that we're going to be competing for guys like that. On the defensive side, there's not a whole lot of talent across the board. J.R. Singleton at D tackle is an interesting player, but not a whole lot from really anybody on this team is super interesting. We got good safeties in Jeremiah Cooper and I believe also in Bo Frailer, but nothing crazy on this team.
Can I switch how options?
Recruiting strategy is pretty simple in regards to what you should normally try to pursue, and this is what we are kind of trying to pursue as well. We are a 3-star school, meaning that we should be able to get prospects that are around a 3-star value with pretty much ease. Now, I don't want to go for what's easy. I want to create a bit of a challenge. And so in that, what we are going to pursue is going for 4-star recruits, 5-star recruits, mainly focusing on those 4-star recruits. I think if you're attempting to create some sort of realistic depiction of what recruiting looks like for a school, you should pursue going for 1 or at most 2 stars above what your school has, unless you have a really big, I guess, advantage in a specific category. Say that we are looking at proximity to home. If I have a guy from Iowa and I am in Iowa, then he should want to come there if proximity to home is what he values. Same thing goes for if I have an A+ academic value and he wants academic value, that's what I have to offer. That's what I have to bring. So you can style your rebuilds however you like, but you just need to focus on trying to be realistic. Don't overdo it knowing that you have the ability to get 5 stars as a 1-star school simply because of maybe proximity to home having that extra value. Unless you decide to role play this in whatever way you have decided.
And when it comes to recruiting, this is going to be the first time that we've ever really attempted recruiting in this game, learning it as we play. We are just kind of scouting, trying to see what guys we can go for, taking a look at 4 stars in positions that I generally find value in, and also focusing on players that have that proximity to home like preference in, or deal breaker, the actual word. Those are kind of the players that are more likely to be on our team. For our traits, we are going to go with trying to boost our wide receiver and tight end, because I think the 2 main prospects we are going to be searching for is this Elias Vasquez at tight end, and there's another player in wide receiver, Keenan Ismail, that I like a lot too. Now, we're also going to pursue offensive linemen, and a lot of them because I know that we need to get them, but I like to have talented, fast wide receivers on the team simply because they do open up the game. And, you know, we can see what we can do on offensive linemen. We're going to go for 3 stars, 4 stars, and even 5 stars on offensive linemen because if we can get a good offensive line, then we'll also be able to run the football with Abu Sama, which will also give us more time to throw the ball to guys like hopefully Keenan Ismail and Elias Velasquez, but also to hit the wide receivers that we have, Higgins, Noel, and all of that. And so our scouting strategy is basically going to be sending the house for these big guys, going for contact friends and family for the smaller guys, and just kind of trying to spread the wealth a little bit. We don't have a whole lot of resources being a 3-star school, but we have a lot more than everybody else. The only teams we're really competing with in this region are Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Kansas State. Those teams are going to be the ones that we are going to be fighting for in the players that we have that are kind of in this proximity to home basis. But
if I recruit a freshman quarterback who's a 3 or a 4-star, he's probably going to transfer out, or he's going to be a junior by the time he plays.
Yeah, or you could do the old-fashioned, you recruit a 4-star, you bring him in as quarterback, you still have the junior, you redshirt freshman.
Yeah, I just know that redshirting has the chance if they value player time or playing time. So yeah, I'm still gonna go after a quarterback. I think like on my board right now, I do have a quarterback that I like, but he's a 3-star. He's from Iowa.
Right.
So I'm really just competing close-wise, I think, in this one with just Iowa. So I've DM'd him because my goal is just to...
Welcome everyone to Ames, Iowa, home of Iowa State, and these Cyclones have been looking to gather strength all morning long. What an exciting...
well, After 40 minutes of sitting through menus, doing recruiting, whatever, adding and just kind of taking a look at what our roster had to offer, we finally get ourselves into our first game where we were going to go up against UGF, aka the FCS Southeast Pandas, and just going to get a good trial run, a good test run with this roster to see what we had to offer, see what our weapons could do, and just also learn how to play the game. We started off kicking off the ball, just, learning how to actually do that and not kick the ball out of bounds right away. And so did a quick kickoff to start off our game against UGF. And on our first drive, we played the defense a lot like you would play Madden. Zone coverage, a lot of that, just kind of getting a grip of how to actually play it in a wide spread thing. We did get a good amount of defense in, getting some good stops, but the running quarterbacks are still kind of a weakness to a zone defense, and the running quarterback gets all the way to a first down. Introducing the offense, we have Rocco Becht back at quarterback with our two wide receivers, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, who we would hope to be able to hit a lot of. However, when we started our game, we instantly were facing a lot of pressure as our offensive line isn't that talented. Because of that, we were forced to punt, giving them the ball, and they drove the ball all the way down the field. However, we did get a nice sack here by Kennard Snyder to force a 3rd and 17, which led to a field goal. Down 3-0 on a 3rd and 10 after not getting any passes out, we run a play action play, which once again, not necessarily the best plan when you don't have any offensive line blocking help. But we do go for it on 4th because it's FCS, and we thankfully get a first down, throwing the ball to Daniel Jackson, who gets our first down of Iowa State. We start the next possession giving ourselves a pass to Benjamin Brahmer, the 6'7" tight end, who would become a big primary target for this team, throwing this ball over the middle as he gets a first down on this next pass. Starting the next play, we end up finding and looking for Daniel Jackson. However, we throw it short, throwing an interception in the end zone to give UGF the ball back. Thankfully, that leads to a punt and not anything else as we get a nice 3 and out. And so we try a longer developing route, and thankfully we get a little bit of blocking, which leads to a wide open Jaden Higgins, who gets down in the end zone for the first touchdown for Iowa State in our dynasty.
Look at the development of that route. First touchdown for Iowa State.
After taking the 7-3 lead, we get on defense, miss a tackle, which leads to a really, really long run for this UGF running back, who does get down to the 5 as we do have a little bit of speed, but that kind of leads them to an easy position to score as their running quarterback gets into the end zone for a touchdown. And so starting with the ball back, we hand the ball off to Abu Sama, who gets a great spin move and gives a nice open field run, which he can break away almost to get to the end zone. He's just not fast enough, but it does get himself down to the 3-yard line.
So, I was like, I can't run. I can't do anything. I ran, I used a spin move, and he was gone.
Though Abu Sama was not able to get into the end zone, we are still in a good position to get a score. However, we do get sacked on 1st and goal, dropping down to the 12, and after 2 more incompletions, we finally get a slant route over to Daniel Jackson for a touchdown. After UGF puts together a drive, they get down to 2nd and 1, where they drop back with their running quarterback. With pressure, we get a fantastic interception in order to at least stop them from scoring again, keeping the 13-10 lead at the half. After another failed drive, UGF starts with the ball, dropping back and get a fantastic catch over to the right side to get themselves on a 1st and goal. We get a nice quick stop, but their running back is still competent enough to get himself there, and our linebacker leads him right into the end zone to give UGF the lead. We try the same route that worked before with Higgins, and we find him open once again. However, the cornerback drops back down, not really interpreting the idea that that cornerback was going to switch coverage, and gives an interception to Rocco Becht as we drop down 17-13 and give UGF the ball. Thankfully, as they run the ball off, we do get a stop and a fumble by Chase McLaughlin, who gets the ball back right away after the first play. Not taking that interception to hurt us, we finally give the ball off on a quick little check down route to Abu Sama, who hits an insane spin route and gets himself at least a first down. And a little bit further, we drive a little bit further down to the end zone, where Rocco Becht is able to scramble his way into the end zone and take a 20-17 lead. After a few stops on 1st and 2nd down, we get them in a play action, which allows us to get a lot of pressure, and Kennard Snyder gets a 2nd sack for himself today, giving us a first down with the ball after we get a nice stop with a 20-17 lead. We playmaker and get ourselves down once again to the 1 yard line, giving us an easy chance for a quick drag route for the tight end, Benjamin Brahmer, to take a 27-17 lead. After another stop, we find ourselves looking for Brahmer once again, who gets himself all the way into the end zone and scores again, giving us a nice bigger lead, leading to a eventual 41-17 lead. After the little scrappy start for us, we do get our first victory with Iowa State.
National Defensive Player of the Week. I need better stuff for Keenan Ismail from Chicago. Is a 4-star gem wide receiver. Doesn't look like the best skill-wise, but 4-star gem means he's like a 5-star talent, and we're number 1 on this board.
Yep. Do not let that man go to Missouri.
No, he's coming
He does
here.
not need Missouri.
He's coming here, and the other guy I want is this Elias Vasquez, who's a 4-star. Oh my god, I keep clicking off it. This Elias Vasquez, who is a 4-star tight end, and we are only competing with Iowa. For him. Ooh, I have more scouting ability with him.
The next challenge was going to be Iowa, the rivalry game in state, the Cy-Hawk Trophy up for grabs against Iowa. We were going to have to actually play a lot better than we did against UGF. Now, thankfully, we got a little bit of an idea of how to play after that first game. And because of that, we were in a better position to say, know what scheme, know what talents, and know what weapons to target when we played them this time. And Iowa was going to be an adequate challenge. They were going to be a team we were going to see every single season. And it's a rivalry game that is going to matter because they're also a team that you're going to face in recruiting. And we do struggle a little bit to get down the field. However, Benjamin Brahmer's 6'7", so a nice drag route gets over that little home field advantage that we have playing in Kinnick. And we can continue to just kind of use this drag route repeatedly. Whether that's Benjamin Brahmer or Klotz that we get the ball to, we can continue to get these first downs as they don't have really good linebackers at Iowa. And still facing a little bit of that home field advantage, we decided to change the route up a little bit. Look for Brahmer, who looks to be open, and the ball gets tipped and intercepted on the 1 yard line by Iowa.
Oh, I hate
Thankfully, this was a defensive matchup as we do get to see the Iowa players doing the Kinnick wave here, but the game is 0-0. Now, they get off the 1 yard line, they start to run, but we get a nice forced fumble right there by Jeremiah Cooper. This does put us in the red zone, which we get down to the 1 yard line, which we get sacked off of the 1 yard line, giving us a little bit more space to work. And on 4th and goal, after moving, we finally get a QB sneak by Rocco Becht to get us a touchdown and take a 7-0 lead. After another stop, we look and find Benjamin Brahmer over the middle as he gets past the first defender and falls down at the 6 yard line for a 20-yard gain to give us 1st and goal. And on 2nd and goal, Carson Hansen gets into the touchdown to take a 14-0 lead. The defensive nature of this matchup would continue as we stop them and get them to 3rd and inches, and their quarterback drops back and throws an ill-advised pass directly to Jontez Williams, who gets the interception and takes the ball all the way back to score a touchdown and take a 21-0 lead in this rivalry game. Getting the ball already right away after getting another turnover, we find Benjamin Brahmer down the middle after a playmaker pass, giving another large gain for the big tight end.
No way.
As we move into the red zone, we look and we find Benjamin Brahmer in the back corner, and we throw the ball on a bad pass. The ball gets tipped, but still caught for a touchdown for Benjamin Brahmer. And that would give us a 42-24 victory over the Iowa Hawkeyes, our rivalry, as we don't make a lot of mistakes and actually start to find a little bit of an identity to this team, heavily surrounded by that passing game to Benjamin Brahmer and trying to force some turnovers on the defensive side by our DBs.
Baylor. Coach prestige. But we're going to do proximity at home because we know he likes that.
12th ranked in the nation, we decide to simulate against the 0-4 Houston team. However, we decide to lose that game, leading us to play this visit game against Baylor, where on our first play, we actually find Higgins for once, down the middle, getting a nice open pass to the 50-yard line. We also go with another play action, throwing the ball over to Benjamin Brahmer, our big target, who gets another large gain, as offensively we were starting to make some big gains. However, we missed a field goal, which led us to not scoring, and Baylor went down and scored a field goal, so we pick back up here in the second, where they get a huge run by their QB. This Baylor matchup wasn't going very well, so we called on the football gods for some help.
We need to turn over bad.
The football gods and Bo Frailer answer our calls as we force a fumble, and Morlake Purchase picks up the ball. And that gives us a nice drive as we go down the field, Abu Sama getting a lot of runs, and Carson Hansen getting the vulture touchdown to get at least down to 10-7. However, things weren't still going very well for us as we did get a couple stops, but then a pass interference happens right when we get another pick for Jontez Williams, which just kind of saps the life out of you a little bit. And we just, penalties not helping us. However, after giving them that little bailout, we at least get a good position as Sadowski gets over and we get a user interception, moving down as Sadowski turns the ball back to our side of the field at a 10-7 game. We drop back with Rocco Becht looking for a pass where we throw a horrible pass and throw another interception, continuing to sap that life out of us. In the second half, we find a nice little drag route for Daniel Jackson, who goes real deep and breaks a tackle to fall himself down at the 9. After failing to be able to score on the first couple plays by Abu Sama, Carson Hansen, the vulture himself, finds his way into the end zone for a touchdown. But continuing to show this era of how our momentum would just not help, we miss a tackle by Jontez Williams, giving a deep pass to Baylor, leading to another touchdown as they take the lead back 17-14.
Now from the 36
There goes all that
line,
momentum.
it's
All
first
right.
and 10.
We kick a field goal, which ties the game up at 17-17, finally making one. And maybe that field goal was very helpful as it gives us a little momentum and we get some defensive pressure by all of our guys and get a nice sack to lead to another punt. Getting the ball, we make our way down in the red zone and we try the jet pass for the first time, getting the ball to Daniel Jackson, who scores an easy touchdown to take the lead back. This was going to be very valuable. This was a big part of what our offense ended up being a lot of. These touch passes, quick drag routes, just simple routes in order to try to force myself not to make the mistakes that I often made when I was throwing deep passes down the field. We start with this kickoff where we kick the ball back to Baylor, and once again, we just cannot seem to get the correct momentum.
So been a successful day. Now 300 yards. I don't know.
Oh, no way. Oh, does it get there?
Might have been 500 out of one.
Luke touchdown for them, ties the game at 24-24, but we find Klotz wide open with our first possession here, getting ourselves back to the red zone right away. And after a few quick passes, we get ourselves to Daniel Jackson scoring another touchdown to take a 31-24 lead. After a few quick stops, it's 3rd and 3. In the fourth quarter, they throw a deep bomb, and we get a nice interception there by Cam Smith, who gets himself all the way back, and we have the ball 31-24, but we are not necessarily the best team. We decide to throw the ball over to Higgins and get ourselves a nice deep pass. We try to feed our wide receiver, and then getting them the ball back. Just, it's trying to continue to get a little bit of pressure, just kind of rack up some stats. We get a nice forced fumble here, and J.R. Singleton, our big D tackle, picks up, does a pirouette, and runs his way into the end zone to get a defensive touchdown. And that leads to the commit by Elias Vasquez, the big core target after the Baylor visit. Our recruiting board was starting to look really nice, only missing out on that 5-star, but that led to another commit by Keenan Ismail as we get our big wide receiver and tight end targets, and that led us to focus on Motivator and moving to getting some more progress into the wide receiver and tight ends. Now, we did have to move to the UCF game, going for another visit, and on the first play, we get a fumble, sadly, on a Rocco Becht scramble, which led them down to score a field goal, and sadly got us a little bit in the hole. Thankfully, we get a big stop by Kennard Snyder on a 4th and goal on their next drive, and we can finally make a little bit of moves offensively, find ourselves a nice little drag route over to one of our big wide receivers in Jalen Noel, who gets our first down and starts to pick up a little bit of momentum for us. We kind of run a hurry-up offense, trying to move quickly as we look for Higgins this time, trying to continue to hit our big targets, but we do look for Benjamin Brahmer as he is wide open instead, getting another first down, continuing this hurry-up offense.
The Cyclones
UCF had been running a no huddle, so we just kind of tried to do it right back to him. And Abu Sama, with a quick juke move, gets another first down as we get really elusive. Moving down in this drive, we look and find a red zone scissor route for Abu Sama, who scores his first touchdown with us and get us a lead. And they hand the ball off as we continue to start to move, and we get a big fumble by Will McLaughlin as the ball bounces around before Verdun picks it up as we have our 7-3 lead. Starting the next drive off of that fumble on the 19-yard line, we look and we find Brahmer wide open in the end zone. No one within a mile of him for an easy touchdown to the big tight end. And we were starting to get some good defense, and Brahmer just continued to dominate, getting a big route down the middle, breaking a tackle for a huge touchdown for the 6'7" tight end. Now we had to spread the ball out a little bit, and so we decided to go with the touch pass, giving it to Daniel Jackson, who gets the ball out to the edge and finds his way for a big gain with a huge juke there to get to the 32-yard line. After a couple plays get us to the red zone, we find ourselves with the slant route for another touchdown for Benjamin Brahmer, his third on the day.
Have a game, buddy.
And at the half, Benjamin Brahmer already has 3 touchdowns, 100 catches. We were absolutely dominating with him, as he had done a fantastic job of getting open this game against UCF. Now, that wasn't the end of the half. They did find their way into the end zone at the end of the half, going down now 28-10, but we were still getting stops. And as we moved into the second half, we had a 28-10 lead and tried a couple routes where we looked for Daniel Jackson, the speedster, right in the corner of the end zone for an easy touchdown to take a 35-10 lead. And after they scored and we drove down, we looked and found Brahmer kind of tightly covered, but with another crazy touchdown for the big tight end to take an even bigger lead, as he was getting hit a little bit. Defensively, now with a 42-17 lead, we moved back and got ourselves a big interception by McLaughlin, who drove down and got himself a huge juke on the quarterback and broke another tackle to fall down to the 4-yard line. This led to another Daniel Jackson jet touch pass, get himself into the end zone to go up 49-17. Rocco Becht ends that game with 8 touchdowns, as I think we score another one in garbage time. Just a huge game all around.
Oh, Jim? Okay, I need him.
We found this gem in Ari Gadecki, and we instantly added a scholarship offer to him and sent the house right away, just trying to get this guy as quickly as possible, as he seemed to be the big target. Dante Skaggs was another gem that we found. It looked like an offensive lineman to us, which could be big because we do need offensive line help.
They're the 2 priorities right now.
We get Carlos Reger, right guard, and then we also get Frank Trahan, a wide receiver. 2 4-stars added to this list, and then we started to look at sending the house for Skaggs now that we had some room. And Kyrie Carmona, after we learned a little bit more of his interests, we were able to switch to a hard sell, and we looked at Prestigious being the option, as he had a bunch of A-minuses. We get the commit from Emmett Eifler and Kyrie Carmona, as well as Isaiah Reeves, the right tackle. Now, Gadecki, being our biggest target, we needed to schedule a visit for him. And so we looked at Kansas State, our last home game, which is going to be a tough one, going for one-on-one coaching in order to get this, as we were going to have to face the 21st ranked Kansas State in order to be able to likely get these big recruits to commit. Now, the first quarter was not really good for us. It was a 3-0 game. We got ourselves a field goal, but we couldn't really get much going. And we could see that, like, Abu Sama and some of our run game was really, really struggling to get in, though Carson Hansen, the Vulture, could obviously get his way into the end zone. Defensively, we were getting a lot of stops, but offensively, it was more about just waiting for some of these routes to develop, hitting our big targets in Benjamin Brahmer, and running the ball a lot with Abu Sama, who does get a breakaway to the edge and falls down once again on the 1-yard line. This time, instead of giving it to Hansen, we do reward Sama, finally giving him a little pass route to get him into the end zone. Our defense was so dominant in this game, though, so we led 17-0 in this matchup, and Abu Sama breaks away with a huge juke to get another big run to the red zone. We use Sama's agility as we move to a 3rd and 3, and he gets a huge juke right through the gap to get into the end zone. A big agile running back for us to get a 24-0 lead. And this was a pretty easy game for us all around. Not really that even notable, as Farmageddon goes to Iowa State, and we get Ari Gadecki to commit. We took a look at some 4-star prospects and just searched on who was still available, and we just kind of added all of these guys to our board, and Brzee, Etienne, Kafka, and Trahan, and just offered them scholarships right away, finding that Kafka was a gem, Etienne was a gem. We fired our DC, not liking a lot of his traits, and decided to kind of switch it up. But as the season ends, Caden Salter, Liberty junior quarterback, wins the Heisman, throwing 3,100 yards and 37 touchdowns. And we do get another award winner as Kennard Snyder gets the best defensive end of the entire nation. And that led us to our first bowl game, Iowa State, NC State. Benjamin Brahmer sadly was not going to get himself an award. Despite having a really, really good season, he got second. And we had a decent offense this season in order to be able to kind of get that production. We took a look at Joe Clay as a DC. In the stream, we were debating playing this Iowa State, NC State game, and I accidentally decided to sim it just out of habit. I did actually want to play the game, and sadly, it did not end up being very good as we only got 130 XP, which is an indication that you're not winning that game. And as we lost it 34-31 at the very end of the game to a game-winning field goal. We were in an awkward position because we didn't have a lot of TV games this season, that we had a bunch of guys who wanted to leave for brand exposure, but we were able to convince a lot of them to come back, the big ones being Sama and Cooper. McLaughlin sadly was the one we were unable to bring back, and he was pretty good for us this year, getting a lot of picks, decent fumbles, but just about everybody else was able to come back, and Sadowski, Sama, and Cooper. We did get 3 NFL draftees, Noel, Higgins, and Frailer. And we moved into off-season recruiting, where we still had a couple guys on our board, including Skaggs, Kafka, Etienne, and Trahan, 4 big pieces that could be really, really valuable. We looked because we knew a little bit about them already, that there were gems, that we could schedule them for visits, and this is something that you should do too while recruiting. Scheduling visits as early as possible is super valuable. We get Skaggs in on a visit, and we still kept looking. There were guys that still had open stages that were recommended, including this Voyashek guy, this is center, who we went quickly with the send the house for to try to get. These aren't even guys in the transfer portal necessarily. Now, we did pursue some transfer portal guys like Javen McIntyre, but it's valuable to still look at the recruits that are there in that offseason, because these guys could be very important for you down the road. We get a few big pieces, getting a punter and Jamarcus Finger, the right end, plus eventually getting Skaggs, who's considered a center, guard Memelaar, who was a transfer portal guy, and so was McIntyre. We also get Kafka and Ochi, the right tackle, plus Carswell, a 2-star, and Taylor Trahan as well. This ends up giving us a very, very good, basically like full squad of around 30-some prospects, getting Voyashek as well at the end of that recruiting cycle. This led us to get the 12th best recruiting class in all of football this year. And taking a look at what this team had, we were going to quickly move Trayvon Howard, a safety who we would have had to transfer out, to a corner, and we decided to move Skaggs to left guard, Loomer to right end, who we got Kyrie Carmona as a running back, and just kind of commit to a couple of those positions. We increased our recruiting, focused on getting a lot more of these defensive positions and offensive line positions that we had that were pretty weak. And then we looked around at what our guys had, as they were an elite recruiter on the offensive line who had a fantastic set of traits that we needed to value for recruiting for this upcoming season. First, taking a look at what the player development actually looked like this season, we didn't get a whole lot of development from a lot of our big guys. Becht didn't go up that much, Sama didn't go up that much, and our wide receiver core was pretty weak. Brahmer was at least up to an 84, and some of our backups were decent. Our offensive line was starting to get a little bit better, including an 82 overall in Benifas, 78 in Burr, but all around we weren't necessarily that great. Kennard Snyder had a big boost up to an 83 with a weird D- playing time deal breaker, despite being our best defensive lineman. Orange ended up being a 80, and all around it was still a decent, kind of mediocre team when it came to the front 7, not necessarily the best. Sadowski was a 79, Lovett was an 81. We had some interesting freshmen in there. Caleb Bacon was up to an 84. Jontez Williams was only an 84 as a junior. I would have liked more. And we had a lot of safeties in here. This was part of the reason why we moved Howard over to cornerback. Just taking a look at Rocco Becht, he wasn't originally a 2-star and doesn't have a very good development trait, but still has some room to grow. And Brahmer as a 3-star, also with a little bit of room to grow, but not a whole lot. These guys have pretty short caps, except for Abu Sama, who at least has an impact development trait, those core elements of our team. Now, we did play around with the conference realignment, and we moved and turned the entire Mountain West into the Pac-12, and we changed the ACC to be half ACC, half Big East, just trying to revive my favorite conference, plus Appalachian State, because why not? Putting our schedule together, we brought in Nebraska for our Week 3 matchup, but the one thing, we did not have a lot of home games this upcoming season, our last home game being the Arizona game. Taking a look at recruit needs, we had 16 players that we needed to replace. We needed some mainly defensive players, but we did go and target this Gideon Ekanem guy, we were second on his board right away, thanks to the proximity to home, and we found our first 5-star gem here in Shaq Kendricks, the offensive lineman who we instantly knew we needed to go for. We offer a scholarship to Miranda, the 3-star, and get an insta-commit, which was strange, didn't know that was possible. But we basically just offer scholarships to every player that's above our value. We were a little bit shocked by the Miranda thing. And it led us to having a big board with Ekanem at the top, Kendricks up there, but mainly 4 stars on the top of our board. And we had a pretty good first week, as a lot of these guys are up to number 1 on the board, including Ekanem, and second on the board for Shaq Kendricks, the 2 5-stars we were pursuing. But a lot of other guys, we were first and second, as we spread our points around, mainly going heavy on the top guys, a lot of send the houses for the top players, but still getting a couple points for a lot of these 4 stars later down the board. Moving at absolute breakneck pace right into season 2, we start the game off right away with a deep bomb right to Benjamin Brahmer over the middle. You know what we got to do. Just continue to hit that target. We drop back and find ourselves a kind of weird route. We do find Benny DeGoy open right at the 1-yard line. Swear he would have got in that end zone. And Abu Sama finally figures out how to score 1-yard touchdowns. And spotting press coverage, we go 4 verts and we find ourselves a wide open on the left side. Benny DeGoy, the ball does get tipped down, but this is a symbol for the future. As once again, we find Benny DeGoy wide open down the middle. This is about to be the best player in the history of Iowa State. You just haven't met him yet. We find him in the corner, ball gets tipped. If we can hit some accuracy, this guy is going to be special. And we find him in the end zone as we fully become reliant on Benny DeGoy. Our revolutionary 4 verts offense becomes pretty simple to figure out as we throw it down the middle. However, Ben Brahmer's too big to stop. And because he's too big to stop, drag route right to him into the end zone. Back to the 4 verts. Guess who? Guess who? Oh, it's Ben Brahmer right down the middle. Wide open, breaks a tackle, falls down at the 14. And we decide we're finally going to do something else, and we go with a little touch pass over to Michael Parks, which gives us in the end zone with a crazy juke. The Iowa State game is getting a little out of hand as it was 28-3 already, and we find Ben Brahmer once again open on the 10-yard line. Brahmer to go. That had led to a touchdown. Now we were up 35-10, and guess who's open again? Ben Brahmer.
No way. No way was he that open.
And 42-17, we take the Cyhawk for the 2nd straight year as we win our first big game of the season.
Benny DeGoy was special. Kind of like he was built in a lab. Now, not a computer lab necessarily, though he is a computerized version of the real Benny DeGoy. Being 6'4" and as fast as he was, being 6'4" and as fast as he is, you're not going to get type of players like that. You're not going to get type of speed at wide receiver like that and size on a consistent basis. Benny DeGoy is and will be the greatest player in the history of Iowa State. And how do we get introduced to him? If you recall, in the Baylor game in year 1, Benny DeGoy was on the field. Do you remember the punt return for a touchdown? Guess who almost caught up to him? Benny DeGoy opens up the offense more than any other receiver that you could possibly find. Speed, size, agility, he knows how to run routes, though our offense, and I don't know how to coordinate an offense that runs complex routes. This guy is something else. He just seems like a Philadelphia Eagle. Like a perfect specimen built to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, on top of that, he's real. That's a big thing. And I don't know how to pronounce his name. So if you hear me speak and say any of his names in any of the clips that we decide to use, it takes me until about season 4 to figure out how to actually say his name, where I looked up and actually watched some of his high school tape to figure out how they said it. And I still might be wrong. So if I'm wrong, and Benny, you're watching this, which I hope you are, I apologize for your name. I suck at names, as everybody has figured out by my not knowing how to say names and forgetting what everybody's name is. I'm like a Midwestern grandmother. She doesn't know what your name is. She never does. At least my grandmother.
Ben Brahmer ends with 263 and 2 touchdowns. And our breakneck pace continues as we move right to the Nebraska game, where we get a huge tip pass from Jontez Williams to kind of get you a head start of what this game's going to look like. While we struggled to move the ball offensively, you know who we were going to go for, Ben Brahmer right away. And the man who now knows how to run the ball from 1 yard gets in with Abu Sama touchdown. Now they gave us too much time left on the clock. 2 seconds. We drop back, fake the handoff. Guess what? Somebody's open downfield. You know who it would be. Benny Nagoy. Touchdown.
2 seconds on the clock. You gave me too much time.
You weren't ready. He's going to take over. He's only a sophomore, but he's 6'4", 195. And routes don't even need to be that open. He's just so good that he gets wide open despite the pressure for a big 65-yard touchdown pass. And defensively, the massacre continues as we get ourselves a deep pass easily picked off by Quentin Taylor, who gets actually some good a good return here back down to the 45. And the defensive side dominance continues as we get a big tip pass, this time from Jontez Williams. But on offense, we'll just keep it simple. Guess who's going to be open? Benny Nagoy. Easy touchdown. And despite his dominance, guess who's not covered whatsoever? Benny Nagoy. We don't even really need to show you much because you know he's going to be open. Easy pass all the way down for a touchdown to go up 52-6. And we might as well just be called DBU because on the defense, Jontez Williams picks off another pass, this time going back all the way to score a pick 6 and easily take a 66-6 lead over Nebraska. That led to a player of the week for Jontez Williams and for Benny Nagoy. The dominant offensive production led to a likely commit and an eventual commit for Gideon Ekanem, the 5-star wide receiver. We also get a 4-star in Darren McIntosh, but the big get, oh my God, Shaq Kendricks, the 5-star gem offensive lineman.
We got him.
We also snag a corner in Tim Palele, as well as Sean Bond, a middle linebacker. Plus Dylan Brooks adding to the linebacking core, and Ian Ajabo, another tight end.
Here we are. Here we go. We're doing no face cam today.
After the 12-hour stream, we decided to get into something that we didn't really intend on doing originally. That is make this into a YouTube video, which is going to require a different approach than normal. Most of the time, I live commentate the video. But because I was live streaming all of this content, I can't do that. I'm talking to chat, we have music playing, and you know, the nonstop drums of the band in the game in the first half, because I had just started up the game. All of this is going to lead me to require to do some post commentary, but we're going to try to do it a little interesting. I'm going to mix a little bit of the live commentary so that way you get some actual feedback of what I'm experiencing while we are actually recording the video. And after the 12-hour live stream, pretty much every video is more focused now on the idea of this actually being a YouTube video, not a stream. Now, if you decide to go back and watch all these VODs on Twitch, well, while they're still live, you can do that and experience it all in full. I tried to trim this down to something that was consumable, knowing just how much content there was really there, playing a lot of the games over the 5 seasons, and not wanting to make this an episodic type content, like a Mr. Hurricane or an Out the Expert, though that will be something we will do in the future.
Is we didn't get every position we needed because I went so heavily on the top end. Basically, I just wanted to try shooting for 5 stars this year after we had such a good recruiting class getting 4 stars last year. And the main two were this Shaq Kendricks and this Ekinem. Ekinem was actually had a deal breaker that was close to here. It was proximity to home, and he's in Minnesota. So wasn't that hard to get. Kendricks, we just went all in on. So that all plays into the recruiting, I guess. Going all in versus not. And honestly, we've done pretty good so far, and we have a decent amount of guys that we still have on our board that I'm hoping we can get. We're not in the lead for all of them, but we're in the lead for some of them, and that's kind of important, I think, because these are like 4-star guys, and well, I want them. This guy we almost lost because of this championship contender, and that's why I'm doing it, because well, we're gonna play this is because we definitely need that, and I don't want to have deal breakers already starting the season for McIntosh and all that. Looking at our school rankings right now, though, we do have some guys who are at risk of transferring simply because of this. If I go to, let's go to right tackle, because I want to see this. So I think Reeves is a running tackle, and we don't run the ball enough. So maybe to try to get him to have a lower risk of transferring, we need to run the ball a lot in this next game. So we are going to play this game here against Houston. We could probably sim and win it, but it's a must-win game, and I just can't afford it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to play it, and we are going to hopefully just take a big lead in the first half, and then we don't have to worry beyond that. Thanks for the assist on the voice, old me, as we get right into the Houston game with a quick interception right away by the converted cornerback Trayvon Howard, getting a pick 6 to start off the game against Houston. Exactly what we were looking for. And we don't even really got to play offense. You know what? Trayvon Howard's just going to do everything for us as he gets another pick on literally the next drive. We go down to score a field goal, and we're just going to keep showing defense because we don't necessarily need to show much offense as we get a big sack for Kennard Snyder. But that's because this game was all about one man and one man only. Trayvon Howard with another big interception, taking this one all the way back from the 33 to score another touchdown. Okay, we'll play some offense. We'll show a little bit of offense. We find Brahmer over the middle, but that ball's picked off. Interception for Rocco Becht. We miss a tackle, but do get them down. Because of the Rocco Becht interception, we do actually have to play some defense, and a huge hit from Javon McIntyre, but no fumble, as they do eventually go down and score a rushing touchdown to close the gap a bit. On the next play, you see that we actually start moving the ball a little bit more, finding Benny Nagoy wide open over the middle to get a big offensive passing touchdown. However, we struggle to stop the run. We're a turnover-based team, so they score a touchdown. And as the drive starts in the next play, you can see we get a holding call and get sacked at the same time, so just overall not very good for us here on the offensive side. Houston just actually had a lot of pressure. That was a big part of what this game was. They just got another sack. Defensively, we were still really dominant, getting a big tackle there by Javon McIntyre to slow their running game down, though they still had a pretty powerful one. And we were getting pressure too, getting a big sack there from Willich. And that big sack leaves them to a 3rd and 11, which gets an easy interception over the shoulder for Caleb Bacon, getting a lurk interception. And we march our way down the field, finding our four-verts offense to give the ball to Benjamin Brahmer, who falls forward into the end zone. We return to the four-verts offense, however, we don't look for the right guy, giving the check down to Dylan Lee, throwing an interception, which really is closing this game out, as now it's already 31-28. And because of this, we just weren't really running a complex offense. This was the next day. I can make excuses, but we threw another interception, just not really making right decisions, and had to stop them now. They started making their way down the field and threw a screen pass here, but Jontez Williams is really good at blocking those and blowing those up. And on 2nd 11, they drop back for another pass, throwing the check down, which gets tackled and stopped by Caleb Bacon. And on 3rd down, they really got nothing open, getting immense pressure as we get a huge sack to make it 4th and 24. And on 4th and 24, they have to throw it deep as Willich creates great pressure, and he throws it right to Cooper, who picks the ball off, kind of ending this game basically by doing that. But he does break away, gets around the offensive lineman, and gets all the way back for another pick six. This flustered the Houston quarterback, who had thrown so many interceptions already, and he throws a bad route, leaving for another easy interception, this time by Cam Smith, who doesn't get around the offensive lineman. Trayvon Howard gets an easy Defensive Player of the Week, and that kind of ends our season there, as Gunnar Stockton ends up leading with the Heisman at 45 touchdowns and 9 picks. Jontez Williams gets Best D-back, and we get a bowl game against Georgia Tech. Yep, to Delp 2 years in a row.
Glad to have you with us from Tampa. Raymond James Stadium, as a couple of teams get set to square off in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. There's nothing quite like wrapping up a regular season with a bowl victory. It just leaves a good taste in your mouth going into the offseason. As we'll see a squad from the Big 12, the Iowa State Cyclones, taking on a team from the ACC, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Glad to have you with us for EA Sports College Football. I'm Reese Davis, David Pollack and Jesse Palmer with me in the booth. Guys, we are ready to tee it up.
Starting off our first bowl game that we didn't accidentally simulate, we throw a bad pass right down the middle, as we did become pretty one-dimensional. We make a quick adjustment and throw Nagoya as the #1 receiver after a few poor possessions, and we miss an interception that would have been big for us right away, which does kind of give Georgia Tech a good shot, though we do get a good stop here on 4th and goal, leading thankfully to only a field goal. Down 3-0, it was raining, so we had to do a little bit shorter routes. Brahmer breaks a tackle, goes further, breaks another tackle, and just keeps going. He's big. He cannot go down. He rumbles and stumbles to the 12. And with that, an easy in route finds Benny Nagoy in the end zone for a touchdown. On 3rd and 11, they drop back to pass, looking for a first down, and they throw the ball over to the right side. It bounces off of his knee, and he catches it. Ridiculous luck on that pass. They throw a screen, and we get some really poor tackle angles, which lead them to go all the way down to the 13-yard line. After a few short runs leads to 3rd and 4, we can't get much pressure, and they scramble out to the right, running all the way in and get a touchdown. Abu Sama had been playing a little bit hurt this year, so Carson Hansen was going to come and run, and he actually made a big breakaway run going all the way from the 44 to score a big 56-yard touchdown for the Vulture. And they start with the play-action play right away on the next drive, and we get a huge sack for Nate Etienne, finally getting a little pressure. That led to a punt, which allows us to do an end around with Benny Nagoy, who was now in the great position to do so, who breaks away off to the edge and falls down on the 6. We throw our little drag routes, and we find Gabe Burkle actually wide open to get into the end zone. Up 21-10, we look for hopefully another big defensive play, and Jontez Williams almost gets the interception. It's still a big stop in the rain and allows us to throw the ball in a tight window to Benny Nagoy thanks to Rocco Beck's accuracy. And he rewards Benny with the next play, throwing a nice drag route, who breaks a tackle, breaks another one, and goes down to the 4. And once again, throwing the drags, Georgia Tech does not guard Gabe Burkle. 28-10, needing a big stop here to kind of end this run with 19 seconds left. They run off to the right, and we take some horrible tackle angles once again from everybody, allowing them to make a huge 85-yard touchdown run at the end of the half. Starting the second half, they were running the ball easily again, but Trayvon Howard with a huge strip fumble gets us the ball back. And we went deep looking for Nagoy this time. However, we get an underthrow, partially affected by the rain, but we just continue to keep going right back to that. We go with a quick check down. However, that inaccuracy from the rain forces an interception that ends in a pick 6. We continue to try to fit the ball in tight windows here as we throw it to Nagoy in between 4 defenders, which allows us to give the ball to Dylan Lee, who gets his way all the way down to the 1. Without Sama, it kind of was like, do we throw it another drag route? Burkle was this time covered, and Brahmer gets bumped off his route, leading to another interception. Thankfully, we force a punt as they weren't in good field position, and we get a nice jet pass to Benny Nagoy, who breaks away from a defender and rushes all the way to the outside, making his way straight to the end zone on a big jet touch pass touchdown. And as they made their way down the field, they got pressure from Kennard Snyder, who misses, and then McIntyre misses, and the quarterback runs all the way down, sliding at the 8. This leads to a little comeback route, wide open, into the end zone for Georgia Tech. We fail to do anything on the next drive, giving Georgia Tech the ball back, and we miss a tackle, miss another one, get a broken tackle, miss another tackle, and they go down as we're just selling this game right now. But we get a huge sack here from Izago, or however you pronounce his name. And then we get down as they get another drag route to get themselves into the red zone. It's 35-20. They go with a quick option play, leading to another sack, this time by Snyder, which forces a 2nd and 13, where they throw a screen pass to Jontez, who normally is really good at breaking those up, and fails to do so this time as we still are not tackling. However, we get a big deflection by Jontez this time in the red zone that hopefully can stop them, and we get another huge sack from Willich to give us the win as we win 35-30 and win the Gasparilla Bowl.
Dang right. How do you handle adversity? Every coach talks about that. They dealt with it now. They got the loss. They had a little bit of struggle early in the season.
No, he's going to be a stud. I hope he develops really well.
The offensive line blocking wasn't good, so we needed to continue to boost these offensive lines now that we at least have some recruits. However, we were going to lose Isaiah Reeves due to playing style simply because he was not getting runs. We do get 2 draft picks in Cooper and Verdon, which gives us a good position, which allows us also to get Master Motivator, now having 5 NFL draft picks.
Tackle. So first off, Marquise Breida. We don't have to scout him. I remember scouting him. All right, we got Breida. We got Stark. We got Mpemba. We got Terrion Nichols. Put us as a 17th best class. You can be a right outside linebacker. And just continue to stack up the defense, knowing how many tight ends we have and wide receivers. We will make him a middle linebacker. And we can change it if we need to. All right, that's our quarterbacks. Running backs, we're not going to switch anybody, I don't think. I might redshirt Hansen, by the way. Fullback, wide receivers. Do we have any strange builds here? No, these all look like wide receivers. That freshman was a 79 overall, Gideon Ekanem. So that's what a 5-star looks like. We will soon see what the 5-star... Oh, the middle linebacker. Bolin, 82 speed, 84 excel, so he's quick. But I think the reason I like that idea of him playing a linebacker is imagine how many picks he could get as a user with 79 catching. Because I assume he's not a blocker. So, but you know what we're most interested in. First off, Ekanem. Stud. This is going to be a top end. I might redshirt the Trahans because of this. Tight end, I can't redshirt anybody besides Jabo, who we just brought in. So Velasquez will probably be playing next season. But you know what we're here for. What is he? 75? He was a 5-star gem. That's a 75? Well, I mean, we'll redshirt him then, I guess. This right guard is the same overall. Like, this was a 4-star gem. This was a 5-star gem. I wonder if he's got a dev trade or something. All right, we've got a decent amount of right tackles then, but none of them are good. Hopefully we get some development out of these guys. We will. He's a pass protector. We're gonna move him to the left tackle. And we'll move him to the left tackle as well. Neither of them are going to play, but I'm just going to move them over. All right. At edge. Okay. Is Yagu Crawford. So these are going to be our edges. These guys will redshirt. Finger, Dell, Blanco. All right. Howard is redshirted. And then these were the freshmen we had last year. Pembo will be the starter over here. And we are going to redshirt like all those. Because we've got enough linebackers. I think we're going to redshirt like all these guys. Corner. This is John Tez's last year and Howard's last year. We brought in Parks. He will play this year. I might redshirt Cam Smith. We will see. Or maybe I'll redshirt Parks. Stark will be our free safety, it looks like. I mean, it depends on all this. I'll probably end up redshirting Nichols. I'm curious. Okay, so let's just look quick. Who's the slowest safety we have here? Sturgis? Surges? He's 6'1". All right, I just want to see. What would he be at a middle linebacker? 7. Okay, yeah, no. Alright. Nothing really interesting there, I guess. We have our sophomore kicker. With the big leg. And we don't have a punter. I thought I got the punter. Alright. I think that's it for position changes. Oh, I do want to check quick. Because, motivator. We want... Oh, those cost 8. Okay. All right, advanced week. We'll see how guys did in training.
Going into year 3, we had some interesting player development, not necessarily seeing exactly what we hoped for out of our big 3 in Sama, Becht, and Brahmer, but we did get some development out of some other guys that were not necessarily expected. Now, Becht was up to an 88, which was still pretty good, and his backup JJ Cole was an 82, meaning we would have somebody to replace him in the future. Sama was up to a 90, which meant he could eventually be a NFL running back, and that was kind of what you want to see. The happiest thing that we saw was Benny Nagoy is already up to an 84. Brahmer only being an 86 sucks, but it's also because of the injuries that he had started to deal with and the wear and tear, as well as we did see he does not necessarily have a good development trait. And Burkle's already kind of up there, though he's more of a blocking guy. And I was hoping that these other tight ends can get a shot. Elias Vasquez being one of those.
Year 3 was a focus on a shift from what we had previously had to what we were going to be having in the future. Rocco Becht, Abu Sama, and Benjamin Brahmer were all in their last seasons for us. What that was going to mean was we were going to need to adjust around them while still focusing on having those guys be the core members of the team. Now, one thing that is not really considered when you're looking at developing players, they should continue to get better and better and better. But our players had hit their caps. Becht, Brahmer, and Sama, while Sama had improved a little bit, were not going to improve to a level we needed them to improve by. Especially because Benjamin Brahmer had dealt with so many injuries in the past previous seasons that he was no longer that fast at tight end. Something we had a significant advantage of early on. He didn't have that anymore. Thankfully, we had guys to replace that skill set, but Brahmer was not going to be that piece anymore, meaning he probably won't end up being a large portion of this season's offense.
Our offensive line was getting better, and it was young. We have Carswell, Guyton, Skaggs is a freshman who's already an 83 overall, which is nice. He's got star development. He's exactly what we were kind of looking for. Is going to be a stud on this offensive line as we continue to need to develop it. Voyashek was already up to a 79. Garfield sitting at an 80. Burr is up to an 80 as we started to build our offensive line. Defensively, we had a little bit of gaps. Finger wasn't necessarily the best. We didn't have a whole lot on the D line, but it was going to be a young team. It wasn't necessarily there yet. A lot of our transfers were decent, and Sadowski would be a decent, captain to the defense. Plus our, corners were there. We did have a lot of outside linebackers too. Our DB room was the big piece. John Tez, Quentin Taylor, Howard, guys that we ended up seeing a lot of progression through in the previous season, especially in Howard. But Taylor was a sophomore already sitting at an 86 overall. The safety room wasn't as good, but it's still something interesting to see as our players do develop. Decide that we had to cut somebody just simply because we had to cut enough players. Dylan Lee was going to be the one that was a good player that was going to be gone despite being very talented the year before. We also decided we were going to redshirt Hansen, just knowing that we had that ability to do so and we had so many other running backs. Other interesting redshirts include Parks and Terrion Nichols. Last season we didn't have a lot of home games. This season for some reason was just almost all home games. We had 15 guys we needed to replace. Mostly defensive guys, but quarterback was going to be a big one, knowing that we were going to start to need to bring in guys after Rocco Becht to fulfill those spots for our upcoming seniors. For year 3, we were going to change the strategy. We were going to focus on what guys already had interest in us on 5th and 4th stars, taking all of those guys and adding them to the board right away, plus going after some interested positions, taking a look at QB, as well as all those edge positions that we needed. We went straight to offer all the scholarships to all of these players, especially the 5 stars, and then went more for scouting those 4 stars and looking for gems. We went with a send the house on all the top guys and for just a contact friends and family for all of the lower guys, just attempting to kind of build a simple process to get everybody that we could. This led to a very, very large big board, but most of the guys being number 1 on that board. We also wanted to take a look at going into their senior season, what he needed to do to see if we could get any record breakers. And Becht was going to be one of these guys as he had already put together a few really good seasons. If he put together one fantastic year, he could definitely get himself into the record books for Iowa State. We were going to redshirt the top Trahan and not the lower one just to get some talent to develop.
That's 5 receivers.
I have a feeling that this season is going to be one where we are going to easily win a bowl game. Just thinking about it, we have a very easy home schedule. Our top players are seniors. Our offensive line is better. And with that, we would do our best to establish our new identity and start this new season against San Diego State, getting a huge pick by Jontez Williams to start the season off. However, in year 2 with Benny Nagoy, it's going to be Benny Nagoy season all day as he gets a huge juke.
Oh my God. He's so good. I love him. I didn't give enough respect to him. I think he was redshirted the first season, and then last season he was.
We get a lot of really good pressure here right away from Ezego.
God, fantastic pass rush.
From the gun, wants to pass.
I could have thrown that to Trahan too, but Carmona, the rookie or the freshman.
Oh, what a move! He will keep this drive humming.
Mine.
And he's
Rocco
loose, and
Becht.
he'll take it.
And as they drive when we are up 14-0, we get just spun out of our shoes by their running back. This is where it was going to start to become clear what our identity was. We really struggled to stop the run as we didn't have a lot of really good linebackers in the room, meaning that running backs could just run right past our front seven if we were not forcing turnovers. Turnovers were really our only thing we had, thanks to the fumble right there as a exemplifier of what this is, because we couldn't stop anything unless a turnover occurred. And on offense, our team became reliant on the one-man show that was Benny Nagoy, who gets wide open on this one, jukes out 2 defenders, and falls down at the 11. We still had Abu Sama, though he had kind of regressed back down to himself, not being able to get in past the 1. But we went back to our drag route system and gave the ball to Brahmer to take a 21-0 lead. Still, defensively, we couldn't stop the run. Missing tackles, just not being able to really get stops, guys falling forward. San Diego State was able to run the ball all over us. But if we could force a pass, we could get an easy interception because we had really good defensive backs. And another weapon would show his face here in Frank Trahan, who got himself wide open on this pass and would be just another speedster to add to the team. But we'd always just go right back to our bread and butter to end the first half, throwing the ball way deep.
Oh my God, he still beat him.
Cyclones! And they made it to the house when they found that 6 points waiting on them.
And I love this offense, man.
Which led to an easy victory for us, 56-14 in our tune-up game against San Diego State to establish the identity for the year 3 Iowa State Cyclones. Rocco Becht, just now an accurate receiver now that he has weapons like he does and we have ways to get it to him. This led right to the rivalry game against Iowa, which we needed to kind of replicate this. But just going down the field, we were still struggling to stop the run as they could just kind of walk right past all of our linebackers. And while Benjamin Brahmer didn't have the speed anymore, he could still get drag routes and break away if he could get himself some room, though he did not look as fast as he did in the first 2 seasons. And reigning here in Iowa State, this was going to hurt us as we could not pinpoint this ball, leading to an interception to go down 7-0. Thankfully, we get the ball back, giving us another deep shot, or at least an opportunity to throw a deep shot. However, inaccurate ball, underthrown, in the rain, in double coverage is an interception, which is going to turn all the way, unless Brahmer can get to him. And thankfully, Brahmer gets to him. However, we're still unable to stop the run, and the running back can easily walk his way into the end zone. Playing down in the rain, you know we were going to go to Benny Nagoy, but this ball is a little short, allowing him not to get a full spread away from his defender. But we'd still continue to find him as he continues to evade multiple defenders, being covered by 4 guys here to get tackled down to the 8. We try to go to Nagoy, but we think we found a better route, finding Brahmer in the back of the end zone to get ourselves a touchdown.
He didn't force a turnover. They just walking past us.
Wide out in motion. From the red zone, looking for a man. Let's it fly.
Did I need to stay with him the whole time?
Though, if we could avoid the rain from affecting us and just give the ball to Abu Sama, who spooks all the way past those defenders, still elusive, getting his way into the field, we would still have a good shot to make some big plays. Now, a lot of pressure from Iowa wasn't helping either as we fell down 21-7, and we do not convert, giving Iowa a shot and so much time to throw the ball. With that time, they just throw it right over the head of Mason Miller, completing a deep pass at the end of the clock. On 3rd and 6, we finally get a little bit of pressure and finally get a sack by Willich. This is also just a reminder that Kennard Snyder was no longer here. We almost get a field goal block, and we go down 24-7 before the half. We simmed out, just knowing that I wasn't being able to be very accurate in the rest of this game, and we lost 30-17, losing the Iowa rivalry game that we really kind of went in with the goal of never losing. At 1-1, we were really going to need to play very well in order to get some of these recruits, which we were failing to do because of that loss. We were going to schedule a visit because we had so many home games at Oklahoma State for Christian Canoff, ignore me not being able to figure out which is playing style, to match with Grant Bonani. Now, we were still at risk of losing players due to the playing style problem with our safeties, and we got a player lockout from Quincy.
Let's come on, Sama.
The game didn't start out so hot, but we did at least force them to punt the ball after the fumble from Sama, meaning that it wasn't necessarily going to be too bad. We got the ball back, and Oklahoma State was going to be a game where we really needed to play a lot better than we had in the previous game. We threw a nice quick pass to Trahan, and then we threw another one over to Trahan again, who broke the tackle and breaks away for a huge, deep touchdown for Frank Trahan.
Broken tackle does a lot.
And on defense, we were just hoping to get a little bit of pressure, and we finally do so, forcing a fumble on the massive hit. We don't pick it up, but that hit hurt. But then you need a little bit of Rocco Nagoy magic as they toss the ball while getting hit into the end zone, a miracle touchdown pass. And defensively, we were still in the same similar position, but we did get a great hit despite moonwalking Patton in the background. We do at least get ourselves the ball after the weird glitchy fumble animation. And we give Frank Trahan the opportunity to be our jet touch pass weapon, and he does not disappoint. 21-7 lead. We are going to go into our four verts offense because guess who's not covered?
You're stupid.
And, you know, it's 28-14. Doesn't look like he's covered again. So let's just do it again.
He'll take a shot.
4, 162, and 3 touchdowns like a Randy Moss stat line as we get an easy dub there.
Situation though. Star Christian Canoff. But we didn't get Banami and we didn't get Crom.
And the playing style continues to get worse as we were not getting interceptions. We lose out on the other big 5-star and prior to Wisconsin. But we do get the 5-star right tackle Josh Winbush, as well as 4-star Vince Lincoln and 3-star Henry Johns. We get a quarterback in Frank Adonijay and a 2-star wide receiver that insta-commit, plus Chance Tongues. After getting a few interceptions in a simulated game, we were allowed to get Quincy again, which forced him to actually commit. We got Bernard Quincy to commit despite his previous deal breaker, plus getting another cornerback and a few edge rushers. However, not getting an interception in another simulated game means that he locked us out and decommitted from us. I hate Bernard Quincy.
One of my biggest gripes with this entire game is the playing style system and how it works. Now, it doesn't necessarily impact specific positions. Say I'm an offensive lineman, like Isaiah Reeves is, or was for us, where he is an offensive lineman that values the playing style of being agile and running the ball. So the rushing yard statistic is what ends up carrying him over to want to stay with my team. Now, I personally don't understand that, but if you had a running tackle who was like trying to get to the league, who knew that running the ball is the only way he was going to get to the league, it makes sense that he would only play for a team that is going to show off his strengths, especially if he's weak at the pass blocking side of things. Now, the problem with it is specific positions like corner have only one thing of value, and that is interceptions. Interceptions are very random. They have nothing to do with the actual skills of your players. It's more about the skills of your opponents. And so, trying to get a cornerback in, why is he not coming? We're not getting interceptions. That's not up to us. That's not a decision for us to make, especially in a simulator that is EA-based, where we know interceptions don't come very commonly. The best way around this, don't recruit guys with a playing style deal breaker at corner or at free safety. But it sucks that you have to rely on that, especially if you've got players already within your team that are stuck on that deal breaker. It's something you're not going to be able to handle or get rid of. They're just going to leave if you're simulating not getting any picks. We were still forcing turnovers, but interceptions weren't coming because this system is dumb.
Now, we were going to need to wait for revenge on Iowa till next season, but Kansas State and our rivalry with them would at least get another chance here for us to establish our place in. They were getting a lot of pressure in this game, which is kind of unfortunate because we actually had an increased offensive line. Thankfully, we do get a pass here to Benjamin Brahmer as we do run a lot of our verts offense, which I know is not really an offense. And we get a nice little check down to Sama, who runs all the way into the end zone to score over some time after we finally got past that pressure. We get a big pick interception from Sadowski here, who turns around and gets it in just a beautiful animation from that, which leads us to a 7-0 lead where we can give the ball to Carmona to get his first rushing touchdown. I also want to introduce you to Blake Barnett, the Kansas State quarterback who would be the bane of our existence for the next several seasons with his ability to rush. Considering our main weakness being able to stop the run, a quarterback that can move like this is just something that we really struggle to stop. And they could just run the ball all over us. Once again, we take horrible angles, but we just don't have a real good ability to stop it. Thankfully, as they go down, they do miss the field goal wide left, meaning that we have a 14-0 lead. It's pretty good, and Nagoy gets wide open on this pass, allowing for a really deep, big shot with a nasty little step back juke move to get him down to the 9-yard line. And after a few incompletes, we do get the drag route to Benjamin Brahmer. Now, Kansas State did not have a horrible offense. They hit us with a weird shot, hitting in the corner around the D-backs and not giving us an opportunity to get the interception, giving them a touchdown, so it wasn't necessarily a blowout. 21-7, though, we do get a run Bersama before the end of the half, going up 28-7. But on 3rd and 6, as they drop back, they still showed the ability this quarterback had to throw shots. It wasn't necessarily a smart move, but the safety just ran forward and didn't get a pick. However, they did not have the speed to stop Benny Nagoy, leading to an easy touchdown.
If you want to throw bombs on me, I'll throw bombs on you.
Going into the second half, it was 35-14, and we did find a very interesting open route on the side in order to get ourselves a first down. Emmett Eifler getting that catch, one of our first recruits to actually start getting a big play, and we throw a dumb pick trying to force the ball to Benjamin Brahmer, which does give Kansas State an actual opportunity to come back. We decided to super sim up 21, knowing that we had more games to play, and unfortunately, well, Kansas State came back when the computer had control. We took back control, and Blake Barnett was just able to run out of any poor situation we could put him in, meaning that this Kansas State offense was still real potent because of this quarterback's ability to get away from us. We can't stop a run, we can't stop a mobile quarterback either. The only thing we can do is stop a pass, but it doesn't really work if the quarterback continues to be mobile outside the pocket. A big sack, though, will change that, forcing a 3rd and 12, creating a necessity to pass the ball, giving us an interception by Trayvon Howard in the end zone. Now, we also did notice something. They were press covering Nagoy, and I'm not very sportsmanlike. But the funny thing is, it didn't matter because they could just do the same thing to us and just throw the ball right over our DBs. Maybe our safeties aren't as good as I thought they were. They kick the onside kick and we recover it, thankfully, making sure that this game wasn't over because of our Nagoy decision. But once again, he found his way to beat this cornerback and caught the ball in the end zone. They get the ball. Still down 15 as they decide to find another shot, getting a ball over to a wide receiver to break their way down the field, and another one as they beat another cornerback in Trayvon Howard for a deep touchdown. For our 3rd straight drive, they press covered Nagoy, leading us to throw a bomb up to him, and he catches another shot in the end zone. We couldn't really stop anything, so I just went up to man up 3 deep, just running a prevent defense, and they still made a huge gain over us, at least not throwing it over the top into the end zone for once. We stayed in this man up 3 deep, and we're unable to get any pressure, of course, as they throw another complete shot down the field, getting a big hit to land down on the 4. We do end up winning this as Nagoy ends with 339 yards because of our shootout in the 4th quarter.
The Big 12 record, Benny Nyoe.
the interceptions as well as the sack numbers were starting to hurt our ability now in playing style.
Did we really lose to Houston? We're the 4th seed. K-State's not in, so we have to beat them. Hey, guess what we're not locked out on again? This asshole. I fucking hate him.
And for our first opportunity at the Big 12 trophy, we were going to have to play Kansas State in back-to-back user games, at least. We did lose to Houston, forcing us to be in this position to not have the higher seed, and that might hurt us down the road. But we did play Kansas State again. And we started off this game going straight back to the well of what we did in that last game, throwing that bomb straight to Nagoy to take this lead, as we kind of figured out how to beat this team. We knew how they were going to play, we knew who they were going to pass to, so we could find ourselves with a nice interception on the sideline for Patton in order to get another possession here in the first half. However, it didn't lead to a score, and on 3rd and 6, they drop back, and we almost get a sack. He breaks past it, but throws the ball directly to Quentin Taylor Jr., who's going to bring that ball all the way back to the end zone for a pick 6. After forcing a 3-and-out, we are up 14-0, giving a nice little jet touch pass to Frank Trahan, who breaks away into the end zone. The 2 number 3s in the backfield, they decide to run their own little fake jet touch pass, throwing the ball over, and another interception, this time by Jontez Williams, as he is unable to bring it back, but it's still in the red zone. And it was a blowout, 59-31. We didn't even really have to show that much of this game, because we knew how to beat them. We showed that we knew how to beat them. It was an absolute domination. They threw 6 interceptions throughout the whole thing. Basically, if you were watching on the stream, you would have just seen a game where we just repeated exactly what we did in the previous game.
National Defensive Player of the Week. National Offensive Player of the Week. But for some reason, he's not even in the best receiver race. 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 64 catches. Louisiana Tech quarterback wins Heisman. We get no awards, and we have the Clemson Tigers. See how we have nobody at risk now because of the interceptions? We won the Big 12. Sadly, we did not get a bye because of Louisiana Tech's at large bid. And even though we won our division, they gave...
Now, we were adequately irritated by the fact that we got the 10 seed after winning the Big 12, when West Virginia in the Big 12 also ended up having a higher division ranking than us. So we just weren't really... It wasn't necessarily the fairest for us. And we were going to have to play at Clemson, a very, very tough place to play. It was going to be very tough for us in this game, not having that home field advantage. And so we were really going to have to focus on forcing those turnovers, being efficient with the ball, because we had not necessarily made the smartest decisions, becoming as reliant as we had on Nagoy. Thankfully, they were a passing offense first, and they didn't necessarily make the smartest decisions, going for little checkdowns out of bounds to start off the game, dropping down to a 2nd and 21 really, really early. However, they were still able to dot over our linebackers, who were not necessarily the best. Holding calls brought them back, thankfully, which did put us in positions for 2nd and 18s, but we just, once again, were not able to stop their overpowered wide receivers. They even ran jet touch passes of their own, where they broke it down the middle to try to go at our linebackers, but our D tackles were able to stop it, and thankfully that did lead us to a long field goal for their kicker to go down 3-0. Our screen was shaking. We decided to run the exact same play we did against Kansas State, but it wasn't going to happen in a team like this, and we faced enormous amounts of pressure by this team, as they just had a much better defensive line. Our plays that we had been running weren't necessarily working as well, and Trahan right away was already dealing with a big hit, which was tearing him down and making us not be able to get open. Our receivers weren't as good. We basically had Benny Nagoy left after Trahan went down. Thankfully, we got a huge interception there in order to kind of turn this game around, getting our turnover that we needed. and it gave us a chance with the ball. Now, you're supposed to run a screen pass here, but Sama did not hear the route due to the noise and ran down the middle, taking a big shot that way. And just after the first quarter, you can just see our team had nothing. But with no Trahan, we had to go back to our bread and butter, as we did find press coverage and found Ngoy over the top for a touchdown.
Benny Nyoe.
They did start to run the ball a little bit more as they handed it off to get a first down here after a 3rd and 1, but they weren't consistent with that and decided to go with passes, which led to an easy interception there and gave us a chance to score again, up 7-3 after a Trayvon Howard interception. With no Trahan, we had to rely on Kai Black to be able to beat our end around guy, and he actually broke away, getting himself all the way down to the 15. The problem was, if Ngoy wasn't open, nobody was open, and we were facing so much pressure that we got a horrible intentional grounding call here, dropping us way back on the next play. So on 2nd and 26, we at least found ourselves to get the ball to Sama, who did break just absolutely snap some ankles to get it to 3rd and manageable, and then we had to kick a field goal, which, not easy. Not easy. Very hard. We got another stop, knowing they had to pass the ball and they couldn't really complete passes, and we finally found Benny Ngoy, who jukes out one defender and gets his way down the field. And back to our favorite play, PA Verts comeback. Ngoy beats his man. We throw it deep in the back of the end zone.
Oh, he's so good.
And that gave us at least a 14-3 lead at half against Clemson. Our whole offense being Benny Ngoy here. Trahan was back here in the second half after taking those hits, and it was much needed. As you could see, he got a huge run out to the edge, breaking all the way down to the 40, as his presence was just so much more helpful. We get a huge block from Abu Sama, which gives us the opportunity to get the ball to Ngoy after a blitz for another touchdown.
I can do it.
And Ngoy puts the team to sleep as we win the first college football playoff for Iowa State, 42-17. That was going to give us Nebraska versus Iowa State for the second round.
Either. But we also lost to Houston. $195 XP. NC State, Iowa State.
The Final Four was going to be NC State, Iowa State, Georgia, and Louisiana Tech, though we were going to sim this game simply because we thought it was pretty early. Sadly, we lost 14-9 as our offense just doesn't show up. Ngoy ends up breaking the record for receiving yards, backed with passing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, and then he eventually breaks Brock Purdy's record for passing yards and passing touchdowns in a career.
27. Hey, we made it to the quarterfinals. Second round pick Sama, 3rd round pick Brahmer, 5th round pick Beck, 5th round pick for Williams. I'll take it. I would have liked the 1st round pick from somebody, but it makes sense that we weren't going to get one.
We get Quincy to commit again, even though I hate him. He'll never play for me.
National Signing Day, we got everybody here. So we are bringing in 31 new guys this year. That puts us as the 19th ranked class.
With as many wide receivers as we had, we decided we were going to do a positional adjustment and make Michael Parks into a halfback, which he was an 88 overall at. And after training, 92 overall at halfback, actually.
He's a receiving back. And so hot. Halfback. That's going to be good. That's going to be good. I might have to force Hansen to leave. Wide receiver. This receiving core just got disgusting. To the point that I'm going to redshirt Trahan, despite the fact he's an 87. Velasquez is now our top tight end. All right. Burton. Skaggs didn't get that much better this past season, but Burton did. Guyton did not get better at all. Wojciech got better. Rager got better. All right, that's going to make the offensive line very interesting. McIntosh. That's an 80. It's a freshman, by the way. So we're going to have a freshman 80 overall edge rusher and a sophomore 79 on that side. Etienne and Godecki are 83 and 80. That's pretty good. Would have liked to see better growth there, but Mapemba, 84. Miller, 87. Boland's already up to 79. Mason Miller is an 87 junior. Love to see that. Freshman, 85 overall. Freshman, 85 overall. We're going to have to tell Ebel to go, because Bond is also an 78 overall. Corners. Quentin Taylor didn't get better. Parks didn't really get that much better either. Or not Parks, but Smith. Smith and Parks might be out. I like his traits. We're just going to have to see how many guys we can keep. Patton, decent. Surges didn't really get better.
3 straight years of bringing in 30-plus guys gave us a 19-player bonus, meaning we had to cut a lot of guys that I didn't necessarily want to cut, like Kai Black, Cam Smith, and the big one, Carson Hansen, the Vulture. We did decide to redshirt Frank Trahan, trying to save him for the future, and our schedule was pretty simple, just adding Louisiana Tech. Starting year 4, we were going to attempt a different recruiting strategy, going heavily for these 5 stars and trying to spread the resources out wide so that we had the ability to get as many of these 5 and 4-star recruits that we possibly could.
Nolan DeBeer.
In season 4, we were going to see drastic changes. At this point, we had flipped our roster almost completely. Most of our big players that we had built this team around and built our play style around were gone. The only core members that we really still had left were some of the defensive guys and Benny Nagoy. This led us to the introduction of J.J. Cole, the new quarterback for this team, who throws it right to Michael Parks right away on a check down route down the field to start off the game. We try to replicate the magic of P.A. Vert's comeback, looking for Benny Nagoy over the top, and Cole is able to do so, though it does require Nagoy to dive. Defensively, we were still in a little bit of this same problem, not really able to tackle, and we had a bunch of brand new linebackers. Now, Mason Miller was the middle linebacker, we had Dylan Brooks, and they were able to just kind of run all over us here in order to kind of take advantage of the fact that we didn't have experienced linebackers.
It's weird. Oh, did he? Okay, he didn't die.
We run a play action pass as Cole is looking for somebody, and we find Ekenem, though it's not really accurate. Doesn't really look like a very safe pass as we try to throw it to our freshman. And we at least target this one, another kind of not safe pass, throwing to Velasquez for the first time. The third pass we make on this drive to Ian Ajobo is at least somewhat safe as he does get the first down. And we resort to a bench route concept where we look to Nagoy, though he does underthrow him, not allowing Nagoy to break away.
Nice. Oh, Velasquez. Easy touchdown for Velasquez right there.
And back on defense after the score by Velasquez, we struggle to stop again of the run as we make bad angles. And Mason Boothie just killing us as he just jukes and evades everyone, absorbing the hit from Justin Patton as he just kind of sidesteps and just dances his way for another first down.
Destroyed by this Louisiana.
After Mason Boothie does come out, we finally force a pass, which they throw, and we stop them down on the 1-yard line, which does on 2nd and goal force them to pass again, though they do score on the touchdown. We started to get a little bit too comfortable with Cole, not knowing that he wasn't really accurate, and we throw an interception on a bad read to the linebacker.
I think reading a different type of zone. I think I could lead that further out than I could.
We had a 14-7 lead, and they snapped the ball directly to Boothie, which we were not expecting whatsoever, as they get a first down, and Boothie just kind of walks his way into the end zone. Going back to Cole, we get another red throw, at least being caught by Velasquez on the sideline. But then we make a major mistake after this and just throw the wrong route and just right to a linebacker again. And one thing that we were kind of underestimating that we were missing was Jontez Williams, who was big at blowing up screen passes and stopping wide receivers from doing those quick routes to the outside. And without that, we weren't in a good position. Cole gets another underthrow, causing another interception that they bring all the way back to the end zone to fall down 28-14. JJ Cole drops back, being horribly cold, looking for something. He finds Eckenham, though it's an absolute hospital pass. And he looks for Eckenham again, finally finding him on the high slant, though if he could lead that pass, it might be a touchdown. And he looks for another young target in Elias Vasquez, hitting him on the corner on the edge of the sidelines. And finally handing the ball off to Michael Parks as we attempt to do something other than pass. He just absolutely jukes out a defender for a touchdown. But the defense, once again, unable to do anything against Mason Boothie and Louisiana Tech. Our turnover-based defense requires a turnover, and so we try to bait out an interception, but Mason Miller just can't get up to get it, which led for us to start going for big hits, and we crush Boothie on that run. And then Mason Miller tries to dive for an interception, fails to do that. And then we pursue another big hit for Dylan Brooks, but he misses. So we were down 35-21, not looking that good, but we do find Elias Vasquez wide open down the middle in the Benjamin Brahma route. And running the hurry up with 14 seconds left, we look for Ngoy deep. He does catch it down on the 10. We are hurrying up, and I think we make a major mistake here not to just call a timeout, because we have one. We should be able to just use it, but this is just the lack of experience for JJ Cole as he tries to force a pass in instead to Velasquez. It is not there, and it turns into an interception, which thankfully doesn't end up being another touchdown. In the second half, down 14, we are thankfully not having to defend the run for a play, and we do finally get a little bit of pressure from Quincy Howard. And we return back to PA Vert's comebacks where we do find Velasquez, but the red throw does not put him in a good position. He does at least break 2 tackles, but that should have been a touchdown. And we look for the jet touch pass now with Benny Ngoy back in that spot since Frank Trahan is redshirted. He does juke out 2 defenders and finds his way to the 2. And JJ Cole finds Ngoy in the end zone. Back to Mason Boothie and the Louisiana Tech run game. We get a huge stop from McIntosh, the freshman, which is a huge beginning. We actually stop something on it, and we got a massive hit from Surges too. Just looking for big hits to try to change this game around. We do find a quick route over to Taylor Trahan, who gets the ball down to the 25.
Eckenham can beat his man. I think he did.
We were trying to force the ball to Eckenham, and I think we still try to force the ball to Eckenham as we throw another hospital pass to him. And on 4th and 9, we finally make a smart decision and throw a check down to the receiving back, who does get himself a first down with the 16 seconds left in the third. Going into the 4th, this was going to be a tough one. We were outpacing them, but just turning the ball over a lot. And JJ Cole, running our mesh concept, does find Velasquez in the end zone for another touchdown to tie the game.
All right, we're back in it.
And now being back in the game, 35-35, we've been hoping that we'd have some momentum, but we ran just a poor coverage and left the wide receiver wide open, which set up a first down on their 40-yard line. And they were facing some pressure, but once again, they just hit another route to this wide receiver. And that let Boothie rest for a little while, which allowed him to dance his way down to the 1. And they run a read option, avoiding all of our guys getting a touchdown to take the lead. Down 42-35, we go back to Ngoy, just trying to do whatever we can to be safe, but we just don't get a good block from Trahan. We go back to a Verts concept, just looking for something, but we throw to a check down, just not feeling confident to not throw a turnover, leading to 4th and 8, where we look for something, but get hit, and that just leads us to turn the ball over on downs.
What was that? What are these angles? What are the angles? What's any of that? Run commit, they ran the ball right on there.
Now in desperation time, we were just kind of looking for a Verts concept, going back to our play. Ngoy beats his man, allowing Cole to throw it over his head, finally throwing a decent pass, getting a touchdown to at least close it down to 1 score. We try the onside kick, trying to get our ball back. There's 39 seconds left right now, so we failed to do so. Thankfully, we have 3 timeouts, though. They hand the ball off to Boothie on 3rd and 9, and he bounces off the offensive lineman and falls back, and we get good pressure to force a punt to give us the ball back with no timeouts left in 19 seconds. We go to a verts concept, just needing something, knowing that we can just spike the ball if we need to. We just throw a desperation throw over to the right side, and he catches it. Ajabo going down, meaning that we need to get this route moving quickly. Instead of spiking the ball, we decided to just repeat the play, go for another deep pass. I think that Nagoy could beat his man. We know it's the same coverage. They get huge amounts of pressure. We are in a panic. He, on his back foot, throws it to Nagoy, who drops the ball. Nagoy almost never drops the ball, and so we drop back looking for a pass. There's a flag on the play. He throws it up to Nagoy, who's wide open. That's a touchdown to tie the game, but is that flag going to call it back? Holding on the offense. We lose to Louisiana Tech.
In year 4, we were going to run into a new obstacle. J.J. Cole was a new quarterback. He didn't face the same things that Rocco Becht had. And in that, the new obstacle we were running into was quicksand. Do you ever feel like something goes wrong and you just can't seem to fix your way out of it? Well, quicksand is this feeling where one thing makes a mistake, and because of that, you put a little extra pressure on yourself. You put more pressure, you put more stakes in, and adding that extra pressure means you fight harder. And the harder you fight, the stronger pull you make, the stronger pull it makes on you. And before you know it, you're drowning. That is what J.J. Cole's greatest weakness is. Unlike anybody else that we have had, J.J. Cole has been subject to the problem of quicksand. We make one mistake, and he can't seem to get over it. The next mistake comes, and another, and all of a sudden, now he's frustrated, throwing passes short, long, trying to do too much, and he drowns. He drowns. Right under the weight of the quicksand, unable to get himself out of it. This is what happened in this game. That is why we lost. Not because they were a better team, not because we couldn't play defense, but because every single mistake that we made led into another, and another, and another, because we just couldn't center ourselves to get out of it.
Now we're in desperate need of getting a quarterback as Cole is a senior, so we are going to schedule a visit for Dawkins for the Arizona State game. Before that, we need to get a revenge on Iowa. Now, we were still going to face a lot of pressure against Iowa, getting sacked right away on that first play, leading to a 3rd and 19, which meant that we were going to throw the ball up and make a mistake with a poor placement to Nagoy and throw an interception right away, not starting a good game for J.J. Cole, as we get a pick 6 to start this game. So we just had a bad game against Louisiana Tech. Now we threw a pick right away. We need to calm down. Throw checkdowns to Kyrie Carmona, and another check down to Kyrie Carmona, who jukes in and almost falls down for the first down, but gets pushed back. And a jet touch pass for Benny Nagoy to get himself some space to work with. We even go back to the drag route, looking for Elias Vasquez over here, who does get around his man, leading his way as he falls down on the 10-yard line, which allows us to do our mesh concept, which gets Velasquez a touchdown. We find an actual spot, run into the offensive lineman, which allows this running back to run for a first down right away. But, I mean, even with that, we still struggle to stop the run, and he runs all the way to the outside. We try to catch up to him, but he gets into the end zone. And J.J. Cole's going to look for the freshman and throw another hospital pass. And then somehow throw a pinpoint accuracy ball directly to Nagoy. And that pass must have just been all he needed for the confidence to throw it right to the back of the end zone to hit Nagoy with a toe tap touchdown. And so kicking the ball off, 14-14, at least having tied this up after these poor turnovers, we needed to find a new strategy. And that strategy was just punch them right in the face. After the forced fumble, you know what? We're just going to keep hitting Nagoy. He's the only one you could be safe with, and we just get another back corner end zone touchdown. Iowa decides to run this weird double reverse, which with a spin move doesn't really work, leading to a 3rd and 16, which forces them to throw it deep, and yeah, they just do that, because of course they do, and we don't get a tackle, and they're back in the red zone. At 3rd and goal, they drop back, and they just find easy running room to get in the end zone. Now, as they kick it off, 21-21, Keenan Ismail is our kick returner, and he's a very, very good kick returner. We see press coverage over on the left side to Gideon Eckenham as we throw it deep to the back corner, though it is tipped down. I do think that that's something that could be possible, but Eckenham is just not as fast as Ngoy is. Thankfully, that was the end of the half, and so it didn't really lead into anything. But Ngoy gets open, but we still find Gideon Eckenham on a first pass that doesn't hurt him. And we decide to throw a very risky pass here, barely getting over the safety's head to Ngoy. And another press coverage, Eckenham in the back end of the end zone gets the toes down this time. Now, we were just trying to kind of feed Gideon Eckenham, just trying to feed him so that he could actually do something and maybe progress. But we also needed to avoid forcing the ball to him a lot. And this allowed us to get Velasquez in the end zone for a nice, easy touchdown. But with press coverage, once again, you know there was going to be 2 guys open, Eckenham and Ngoy. We go for Eckenham this time, just trying to continue to feed him, getting a touchdown for him. And we get our revenge against Iowa, going and getting a 49-28 victory, avenging last season's loss that we had due to the rain. Thankfully, actually getting a good victory and a decent game for JJ Cole despite the sloppy start. With Master Motivator, we are now allowed to put our resource points a little bit deeper in the tree, focusing a lot on offensive line, wide receivers, and now on DBs too. And even though we were going to schedule the visit for Dawkins, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You can see he doesn't have a lot of points.
I am not going to waste the points on him anymore. I'll keep him on the board.
No interceptions means the safeties want to go. And it's pretty unlikely that Brian DeBeer is going to stay, though he's a big piece and you kind of want to invest in that. We were starting to have issues once again with the interceptions, but also just looking for getting players to be interested in coming along. Sadly, we were unable to get Marquise Nall as he goes to Texas, and Rodney Dove decides to rock us out. We do get a quarterback in Amari Mattingly, though, so it looks a little bit better, but we were losing out on players pretty quickly. DeBeer goes to Arkansas, Nall to Texas, Durant to Nebraska. This recruiting method that we decided to use this season wasn't really working because we didn't focus on anybody, and we weren't the best school to be competing with. So almost all these guys went somewhere else. Now, we had some visits for UCF, so we needed to try to win this game quick. Cole's actually having a decent season besides my problems that I was having with him. And so we decided to go to checkdowns. Be safe with them, throw it to Carmona, who does get a first down on his first play. And we run the ball with Carmona as well, who gets around the defender and actually breaks away down to the 50-yard line despite a slower speed. And we drop back to pass on 1st and 10, and Ngoy is uncovered, leading to a large first down and a big gain, falling down at the 7. We wanted to reward Ngoy, but I forced it. I forced it, and we throw a pick to UCF. Thankfully, we tackle him and push him down to the 1, which is huge because that allows us to be in a good position to get a good defensive stop, and we do right away, getting in the backfield with Mason Miller for the safety. Up 2-0, we decide to throw a hospital pass, but it's in the end zone this time. And some of our linebackers are starting to look a little bit better. Mason Miller actually got a stop in the backfield. And on 3rd and 7 with the ball back, we get a nice post route for Elias Vasquez, who gets himself right along the sideline for a good catch. Velasquez is becoming Cole's favorite target as he goes for him right again in a very tight window as he catches it. But the safest route is red zone scissors, where Michael Parks can get himself open and into the end zone. We win that with 2 picks from Keani Parks being a big deal, and those interceptions opening up Tresman Burt for more recruiting, as well as those corners and other safeties. This would help us actually be able to get these guys with those picks. We failed to get the 3 quarterbacks that we were going at, but we still had Mattingly, and Juan Maclio is the first guy we get in a long time. It's like week 10 by this point, by the way. And we failed to get almost every tackle. It's just been a rough recruiting class. for us so far. And Benny Nagoy finds himself second in the Heisman this far into the season, though slipping a little bit behind Jaden Bradford as he tries to put up a best year in his senior season. And with the college football playoffs so far, we find ourselves sitting at the 4 seed. This is about 11 weeks into the season before we have to play Kansas State. And back to the rivalry, Kansas State is going to be a big game for us. Reason for this is because Kansas State is going to have pretty much the same team they did last year. We have to win this game. This is a Big 12 matchup because it will pretty much cement our position in the playoff, being that we are likely playing this as our last game, having a few losses in our conference. They are 13, we are 4th, and Mason Miller continues to play really, really good defense, getting another backfield stop as we start to kind of change a little bit of our narrative about us. A holding call pushes them back far enough to force them to punt, which gives us the ball back pretty easily. Keenan Ismail catching the ball, going over to the left, and he breaks away. Can he make it? Keenan Ismail is going to get a punt return for a touchdown. And forcing another punt after a great stop, we get a roughing the kicker.
You're so stupid.
It just kind of takes a lot of the momentum out of our sails because we end up like defensively not being able to get that stop, which allows them to get a first down here and they move down the field. Our defensive coverage breaks down and he finds a wide receiver over on the left side, falling down to the 1, which allows them to get a run right down into the end zone for a touchdown. That's a possession that should have been a punt that ends up getting a score, and we get sacked right here as the momentum just continues to fall away from us. And so Cole looks for something to change it, looking deep for Nagoy, who does catch the ball on the 50, falling down at the 50-yard line. Then we decide to go to a jet pass, giving the ball to Nagoy as early as possible. He follows some blockers, gets in, jukes a man down, and we fall down at the 26. Momentum comes and momentum goes, and as we look for Nagoy once again trying to force it, we throw it right to a safety who catches the ball for an interception, and we are back on defense. And so on defense, going against Blake Barnett, we know we got to get pressure because you know you got to force him to move and make bad decisions. We get a lot of pressure on a screen, forcing a fumble. Jamarcus Finger picks up the ball and runs all the way for a touchdown. That should shift it back in our favor.
Recovered by the defense, going the other way. Breaks clear over the right side. Can they chase him down? Touchdown, Cyclones. And the defense joins the party.
But this is Blake Barnett we're talking about, and he scrambles himself out to the left side as Miller goes in but does not get there in time, and he gets a first down. On 3rd and 7, we get in another position like this, and thankfully we do get a sack, getting some pressure, which forces a field goal, which they do make, going up 14-10.
That guy almost hit him again.
Up 14-10, they get some insane pressure, getting a sack in an instant, dropping it to 2nd and 17, in which we look for Nagoy and just miss him by a mile for another interception. Thankfully, we get the stop, so we decide to look for Velasquez this time, and he misses him too. Another interception. After another defensive stop, we decide to just go drag route. Just go to a drag route, and Velasquez catches the ball, makes his way down to the 40-yard line and gets out of bounds. We throw another jet touch pass, which gets the ball to Nagoy, and he breaks his way out to the right side, getting all the way down to the 1. Which allows us to run mesh and get the ball to Velasquez in the end zone. Touchdown.
You guys! Oh my god! Just don't even try. Don't even try. That is the second time you've done that this game.
Thankfully, the punt doesn't affect us too badly. We do win 42-24, and we win this game despite our players attempting to lose the game by their poor defensive decisions. Frustration is seeping into this team in year 4. We get a big wide receiver. This is one of our that like we've shown every recruit that we've actually gotten so far. And as we approach the off season, we do have a lot of guys still left on our board, though, at least.
That's not a lot of XP. You kidding? Are you kidding me? We lose to Houston back-to-back years?
The loss to Houston was tough, but Brian DeBeer looks like he decommitted, as well as Dove decommitted from their teams. So we were going to go all in on these guys. Now just going for a hard sell, giving as much points as possible to get these 5-star and 4-star recruits that we were unable to get earlier in the year. And just kind of do what we can, as our recruiting class hadn't been very good this past season. The game hadn't been going well, our players hadn't been going well, and our recruiting hadn't been going well. Year 4 was just kind of a bust for us. We get Gerald Childress to commit to us at QB, and then we get Marquez Callaway, as well as Brian DeBeer.
Let's go, Brian DeBeer.
And Rodney Dove.
Rodney Dove. He didn't get it. So 13, 28, and 22 touchdowns, 89 catches for Noble Johnson. Gets him that. Vasquez gets best tight end. 920 and 9 for Vasquez. Gets him best tight end. Quinn Taylor, best D-back. Keenan Ismail, kick returner. Love bowl games. Pull through a lot of picks. That's on me. But 20 touchdowns and 39 yards. I mean, this was one powerful offense, and we still got games to go. To play in.
Welcome to the college football playoff. The season's had plenty of ups and downs, and all the drama has led up to this point, the first round of the 12-team playoff. And a home field advantage for one side. This place is rocking. And this is a very intriguing matchup. One team that earned the right to host this game and enjoyed tremendous crowd support against another team that slipped into the playoff, trying to establish a tradition now of upsets in the first round of the CFP. As we'll see the number 11 seed.
This wouldn't be an upset. We got upset.
Taking on the number 6 seed in the playoff.
The audio might have been a little bit off, but it's still Penn State. It's a tough place to play, one of the toughest places, but we get a big sack to start off that game. And it's a Big Ten school too, so they're going to run the ball, and we kind of know what we want to do to stop that. So we weren't necessarily, I don't think, too rough off. They do a jet touch pass, get a first down. I mean, it's a great team. Penn State's really good, but we get a big stop in the backfield by Dylan Brooks in order to get a head start.
Comes out for their first possession today. Just underway, and this home crowd is fired up and ready to make a difference today.
Shut him up right away.
And our Penn State Mo Bamba moment ends up kind of shutting them up, as we do get a first down. But we throw an incomplete pass, and we're kind of desperate because we know that we can't make a field goal after our Clemson matchup. So pretty much everything has to be touchdown or bust, and we need to get them quiet early. However, JJ Cole throws an interception in the end zone, which does not help us with that. On 3rd and 2, they get another first down with this team just being able to run the ball. They had really good running. They had a really good offensive line. Mason Miller absolutely crushes the running back, but it's still not enough. They're still able to get first downs. We're going for big hits, but we just can't get regular tackles. They hit us with a quick screen pass, which once again, we don't have like a Jontez Williams to stop that. We go for a big hit and they just kind of shrug it off. And they go for another screen pass, which we still don't have a guy to stop that. They absolutely snap our safety's ankles for a touchdown, going up 7-0. Continuing to go with a couple simple routes. We go with some drag routes and some in routes looking for a wide receiver. We find one in Taylor Trahan who gets over the middle, gets hit hard in the middle of the field, but it's still first down. We go to 2nd and 8. We look for Velasquez, who gets the first down on his first catch. Quick play action, we are able to get the ball to Kyrie Carmona, who gets himself up all the way to another first down in the red zone. And we have JJ Cole dropping back, looking for a receiver. Red zone scissor route gives it to Michael Parks to tie it up. But this running game was still really good. And despite the fact that we had a little bit more speed, we still just kind of pushed them forward. Our guys are young, inexperienced. They don't necessarily make the best decisions. We get absolutely burned on this read option that I was not expecting by the Penn State QB. And they just continue to kind of march on us. They hit us with their own scissor route, just getting into the corner of the end zone. And you can see it. The noise was so loud here at Penn State. We were really struggling to hear. Everybody was kind of messing around. Now, Parks does get himself to dance to the first down, but like you can't figure out what route anybody's running. You're just kind of guessing. And the pressure is hard. We get sacked as we fall down 14-7 here. and it's 4th and 13. And this is not a play you should go for it, but we do, and we get sacked. And we end up getting 2 quick stops to make it 3rd and 7. However, this wide receiver just absolutely fools me going up the middle of the field, completely juking out Mason Miller. We are now down 21-7, meaning we are going to get a little bit more desperate. And we throw an interception to a safety to fall down really fast, 28-7. We just really are struggling here at Penn State, and the pressure is enormous. We get sacked again. It's 2nd and 21. There's still a lot of pressure. We look for a wide receiver, overthrow Taylor Trahan for an interception. It's just, yeah, we just had nothing. And it sucks because it looks like simulated. When I played into Super Sim, we actually had a shot. I shouldn't have played it. I got overconfident, and it sucks because that's going to be the end of Benny Nagoy's career here. We did decide to completely switch up our offensive coordinator, going with a scheme guru now instead of recruiter, because we just have a lot of guys.
4th round pick for Benny Nagoy. 1st round pick for Michael Parks.
In the offseason, we got a transfer portal wide receiver out of Stanford named Emmett Mosley, Rodney Orr, and DeMarvin Swain from Iowa, and it ends up giving us the 17th ranked class despite having a really, really poor recruiting season. Transfer portal really helped us at the end of this. And so with Cole graduating, we were going to go with a true freshman, Gerald Childress at quarterback. And we're also going to convert that wide receiver from Stanford into a running back as we look at our development for the following season.
Moberly. It's an 81. Singletary didn't really go up. Trahan, Ekanem, Ismail, Trahan. Yeah, that's a crazy receiving core. Velasquez, Ajabo, and Eifler. Skaggs is a 90. Look at all those guards, man. Oh my, Kendricks. Development. Okay. Okay. 87 for McIntosh. Figures an 83. The D tackles are finally decent. Taylor's a 90.
It's an interesting thing to go from guys that are real to all of a sudden having players that are recruits, because now I feel like you have to have ownership over these players. Going from Cole and Becht to a quarterback that we recruited and we put on our team, and now all the development is intentionally focused on what we do for him, that is special. That is what makes Dynasty. J.J. Cole could be a quarterback for anybody. Rocco Becht can be a quarterback for anybody. But nobody but us gets Jarrell Childress.
Our 2 5-stars had now developed in Gideon Ekanem and Shaq Kendricks. Ekanem didn't have a lot more to grow for us, so I didn't necessarily know if we had a lot more time with him. And as we said, we were going to move Childress to starting quarterback. And we were also going to throw Kendricks into play because he's just too good not to play, despite having Voyashek at center. And our preseason team was looking really good.
Emmett Mosley at running back, who is another receiver I converted. Frank Trahan, Skaggs, Gadecki and Etienne, Miller, Brooks, Quentin Taylor, Terrion Nichols, and Vernon Comier. Gideon Ekanem, Voyashek, Dwayne Hurt.
And we were going to put ourselves through a different schedule, throwing UCF and UAB, just trying to put difficult opponents on this schedule for us. Though we weren't going to play as many games as we had in the past. We were now a 4-star school, ranked 11th. And this is what happens when you make college football playoffs. Your team gets better, your star rating goes up, and you have more opportunities, get bigger recruits. We were in a good position. And so we were going to adapt and change our strategy from last year, but we were still going to pursue similar players, 5 stars, 4 stars, now that we, especially as a 4-star school, being in a really good position to go after these guys. Instead of going full in on a few guys and then halfway in on everyone else, we were deciding that we were going to go full in on everyone that we could, and then we would just wait it out on the rest of them. If we lost them and we weren't able to get the guys lower on our list, then we weren't able to get the guys low on our list. But it would be better than like halfway going for it on guys up the board and failing to get them. And it looked pretty good in the beginning. Coker, we were on the top of his board. Sauer, we weren't. Eddie, we were. And some of these 4-stars, we were near the top of their board too. But guys that we weren't, it just made sense to just lower the investment. You're not going to put a lot of points to a guy if you don't really think there's a good shot at him. And so we got into the Iowa State game per usual, but now with our freshman quarterback, which we were going to have to adapt to a new strategy. He didn't have the throw power that JJ Cole did or that Rocco Becht did. Now, we were also coming in with just a different kind of mindset. Our entire defense was basically the same, but just a little bit older. And because of that, we were able to just kind of hit way harder. We had a bunch of hard hitters out there. We had a bunch of better coverage guys, people who could cover the range, but you could just see us just going after hit after hit. We're just a strong team now. We get a lot of pressure here. Jamarcus Finger gets a sack, just kind of, replicating what we're used to with him. And you can see right away as we come out with this new team, Ekanem leading the team out with Mosley and Voyashek as our top 2 players. The offense was going to be different. We were going to be able to run the ball this season. And Emmett Mosley is the real deal. Might be better than Abu Sama. Defensively, we were in a position where our coverage was even better, so we were allowed to get more pressure defensively and get a sack here from Darren McIntosh. But
God,
stupid idiot.
Gets home again, continuing his production. Last week, 2 sacks. This week, already a sack in the
Idiot.
first half.
No,
This
it's the
guy
same
has
team.
been on a sack terror.
he's brought down, but there's also a penalty mark.
despite the dumb penalties on the roughing the kicker, we get the ball back pretty quickly, and we can just kind of run now. It's different. It's a different feeling offense. We have to go a little bit shorter. We're not going with these deep routes, but these check down guys like Mosley are just weapons now that we have in a more West Coast centric offense. Our tight ends like Velasquez can just kind of break away really easily on these drag routes and just juking out defenders to fall all the way down to the 14. And our end around routes back with Frank Trahan back in the fold after his redshirt season, and now kind of the highest rated wide receiver on the team, actually. Mosley is able to run all the way down to the 1, but we are rewarding him and actually getting him into the end zone. And then on defense, dropping back, we force them to pass. We can stop the run now, and that leads to an interception, a big one right there by Terrion Nichols, as they just couldn't really pass on us as much anymore. The jet touch pass with Frank Trahan is the weapon it was several seasons ago as he breaks away to the outside and gets out of bounds, trying not to take big hits. And it also feels different having a mobile quarterback. Gerald Childress is able to move out of the pocket, run all the way down, falling down at the 1-yard line himself. And though DeGoy isn't here, he's able to find a big target in the back of the end zone in Frank Trahan. He even is finding a way to get Kyrie Carmona. I struggle with this name. I want to say Kylie. Quick, easy routes, who breaks a bunch of tackles to get himself all the way down to the 32.
Completely different identity from like the last 2 seasons where it's like, all right, we pass, spread off speed everywhere.
From the 17-yard line, threatening to score on 1st and 10.
Including the QB.
And so while it doesn't look like a really big score, winning only 28-21, it felt pretty dominant in the sense of we found a new kind of strategy we had to use for Childress to make this team work. And we just kind of beat them safely. We didn't have to go with big shots anymore. This team is just naturally better. And Emmett Mosley is a big cause of this. And it kind of led to a really good start. We were ranked 3rd in the nation at 4-0 4 weeks into the season. We had to play 4-0 West Virginia. I wanted to show the simulation of this because we did win this game and get the commit from Coker from that game, who was visiting at West Virginia. And that moves us right to the Texas Tech game right after. We are 5-0 at this point, ranked 2nd in the nation, playing Texas Tech. A big conference game for us in the Big 12. And Childress just being able to kind of be a little bit safer, run the ball, get a touchdown that way. We were kind of going with more super sim moments now too, because I didn't want to make the mistakes I made before. It does lead to Texas Tech getting a running opportunity from the quarterback, which I still struggle to stop. But Emmett Mosley is just, he's different. He's different offensively, able to get himself down to the 8-yard line on this play.
Boom, Mosley.
Touchdown, Iowa State.
And Emmett Mosley was kind of the big face of this new team now. He was our running back. We were going to be a running team. And while we had Gerald Childress as a freshman quarterback, Mosley was the actual big weapon because he could just juke defenders out of the way. He was so much more agile, had fantastic moves, could actually run behind a really good offensive line. And he was a great pass catcher too, originally being a wide receiver from Stanford.
Mosley feels like a running back.
And so as we were up 38-23, we continued to run the ball with Mosley, who just continues to juke defenders out on a consistent basis. This was going to be a different identity completely than the previous one, which was reliant on the Benny DeGoey deep bombs. And the other big difference was defensively, we were allowed to get a lot of pressure now. Nate Etienne and Darren McIntosh getting in for the sack on that second down play. And we were still able to put good pressure, and Darren McIntosh with another sack. He ended up just being a really good kind of defensive menace this season. And Dylan Brooks coming in from out of nowhere to get another sack in this game after McIntosh sheds and puts some pressure on. And Dylan Brooks.
That's a madman motion right there.
Which led to a big 45-23 victory in what was basically our visit game for pretty much all the rest of the recruits that we could fit besides Coker, which was a big deal because we were attempting to still try this new recruiting strategy.
Another 5-star. We get Kenya Eddy, Storm Perfect as a quarterback, Larry Blunt, we get the 4-star, Trayvon Sweat.
And even simulating, we were getting great games from Darren McIntosh, who was becoming like our new Kennard Snyder. And so at 9-0, we had to go in and play what has become our biggest rivalry in this entire dynasty, Kansas State, for a massive game, pretty much the last opponent on our schedule, always having Kansas and Houston afterwards, to stay undefeated as we were now the #1 ranked team in the nation. Starting the first drive, Kansas State was still able to get down the field pretty easily. They had their running quarterback, Blake Barnett, who had been a pain, but we were getting stops, forcing them to third downs, and on this play, they threw an incomplete pass, which led to a fourth. But on the field goal, we get a roughing the kicker penalty, which kills an opportunity in which we could have got a stop. It's rough because it just, we got the stops, we forced them to this position, and then on 1st and goal, they are able to use the fact that they have speed at the QB position to score a touchdown. Unable to score on offense, they get the ball, and we play great coverage, forcing a sack, forcing a 4th and 15 for a field goal again, which they make this time, going up 10-0. Still super simming, we're now down 10-7, but we're still able to get some good routes over here, getting the ball to Velasquez on the pass, who jukes out like 3 defenders at once to get himself to the 42. But we were kind of frustrated after the kick, and it forced me to make a bad decision and throw an interception to a linebacker. Thankfully, we have a little bit of speed to be able to get there, and we get a massive hit from the lineman. And they were moving the ball slowly, so with 30 seconds left in the second, it was 3rd and goal. We got some pressure, almost get the sack, but do stop them to make 4th and goal.
No good. But there is a flag down, and he might get another shot at this. Efficient to put some points on the board before the break. Into the hell of...
Something I found early on while playing this game is to deal with the kick blocks and the punt blocks is that when your safeties develop to a certain level of speed, they start to get too fast for their own good. Now, it means that at some point, every punt block and every field goal block has a significant opportunity or chance to end up being a penalty. Now, this is a pain because this is a really simple call or a really simple play that you should always be able to run, going for field goal blocks and punt blocks, maybe not even punt blocks, just regular punt returns, is something that shouldn't necessarily be a problem. However, in this game, it is when your safeties get too fast. They inevitably will get too fast. And so, whether that's just because of the advantage of everything, this isn't even getting like a good jump. Not even getting a good jump is making this difference. It's just they're too fast. It's irritating because it means that you have to turn off roughing the kicker, which shouldn't be something you have to do. It shouldn't be something you have to do to make the game more realistic or you have to manually control the safety that's about to block the kick.
The frustration had set in. We were in a bad position. The quicksand had gotten my ankles. The penalties were killing us, and I was just making bad decisions, throwing the ball deep directly to the safety by Kansas State, who just picked the ball off, making it away almost back to the 50. We got to stop again because our defense is pretty elite, and we throw the ball over to Keenan Ismail, who, it's a bad throw, but he's still able to get the ball to the 15. And we weren't flying without a rudder. We still had a pretty good offense, so we do get the ball to Velasquez in the end zone when we calm down. But there's nothing that irritates you more when you play great defense and a running quarterback just completely nullifies it. And our defense finally broke as we just made a bad play call, leading to a big touchdown to take a 24-14 lead. I mean, one of the reasons this rivalry had become so big is because this team was so frustrating to me. I could not really stop their quarterback, and they win, ending our undefeated season 24-14 because of roughing the kicker penalties and just a frustrating quarterback. I mean, this rivalry is a rivalry for a reason. We could put Iowa into the ground, but Kansas State just would not die. And so, losing our undefeated season, going into the Big 12 championship game, I wanted to say, it's very interesting over the 5 years how our rivalries and the teams that we had to face develop. Iowa was a team that we kind of destroyed due to the recruiting and never really got them and gave them a chance to get guys in the state of Iowa and the pipelines because of our competition. The only competitor we had to worry about was Kansas State, who didn't even really recruit well. They just had quarterback and a wide receiver combo that I couldn't do anything about. And that was what led to a team like West Virginia to be able to make a really good team in the Big 12 because we were never really fighting for them with prospects and recruits, because West Virginia is nowhere near the Iowa pipelines that we were pursuing. We were going to start the game simple, just trying to kind of calm down after the Kansas State game, which we did, by the way, finally beat Houston. So we go with the end around of Frank Trahan to start the game, or a jet touch pass, and then a quick check down to Emmett Mosley, who jukes out 2 defenders. However, fumbles the ball, unfortunately, giving West Virginia the ball right away in the beginning of this game. The frustration was setting in already in this game. And their quarterback was one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. Terrell Cantu was able to get this quick route over to the wide receiver, hitting him and hitting another tight window to this wide receiver near the end of this drive before running a read option to score a touchdown to take the lead. But we had a running team. Emmett Mosley was able to run the ball thanks to some insane blocks from Shaq Kendricks. And the jet touch pass to Frank Trahan was still kind of one of the best plays in all of our playbook to score a touchdown to tie the game up. Or at least try to tie the game up. Our kicker missed the extra point. They throw a ball to the side, and we do get a big pass breakup, which gives us the ball and an opportunity to give it to Kyrie Carmona, who can actually run it in to score a touchdown. Returning to the bread and butter of our jet touch pass in this kind of West Coast short route concept offense, we give the ball to Trahan, who gets all the way down to the 22. And then on 1st and goal, we are able to get the ball to Mosley, who gets his way all the way down to the 3. After getting the ball to the 1, we do a quick QB sneak to score a touchdown. And a little bit later in the game, 20-14, we hit with a check down to Mosley, who can outrun his defenders and get into the end zone again.
I like Mosley as much as possible.
But this game wasn't over. West Virginia was a very good opponent, and their running back was able to kind of run to the outside despite using a weird spin move to get them a first down, which gave the opportunity for them to throw the ball and hit a kind of weird pass, but almost first down, 2nd inches for a run to the outside to get another first down. And this is where Terrell Cantu showed his skill. Back foot throws it on a dime to the wide receiver on the left, and then on the goal line, scrambles out to the right and gets his way into the end zone to tie the game. 28-28 for all the marbles. Emmett Mosley gets in, jukes one defender, gets out to the outside, breaks away, gets all the way down to the 40-yard line, which allows us to return to the jet touch pass for Frank Trahan, who can break all the way out to the outside, getting around the defender after some clean blocks, making his way straight down to the 14. Running the clock out, but not being confident in our kicker, we go in and run the ball with Emmett Mosley, getting the touchdown. And we left some time on the clock for their quarterback as they drop back, but we get some huge pressure, get a big sack to force 2nd and 16, which allows them to go into Hail Mary mode, where they throw the ball or at least try to throw the ball, looking for a defender, before Mason Miller gets in for a huge sack to end the game as we win the Big 12 championship game with a big sack from Mason Miller to end this, winning 35-28, and hopefully getting us our bye going into the college football playoff.
And now with the playoff spot locked up, we get to see what they can do against the 11 other best teams.
Coordinator of the year, Ty Davidson, the offensive coordinator we brought in. Heisman goes to Jaden Bradford. Voyashek, best interior lineman. Voyashek, best center. Keenan Ismail, another kick return. Player of the year, we were 3rd and 5th. Oh my God, he was a freshman too. 2nd in coach of the year to John Carroll. I don't know what their record was. We're gonna have to see. They ranked 1, so maybe they went undefeated. Best QB, he was 4th. That's a true freshman. McIntosh was pretty good this year. Best running back, Evan Mosley was number 2. Trahan was number 2 as wide receiver. McIntosh and Lombardi there. Not here. I think it's because of the rushing that he got. McIntosh 5th for defensive end. Voyashek, Skaggs, Rager, Thompson, Guyton, Burton. Best tight end, Velasquez was 3rd. Broyles, Clay was the 2nd guy. So literally our coordinators were 1 and 2. Linebacker, Mason Miller was the runner-up. Center, Kendricks was the runner-up. Yeah, not that. And best returner, Keenan Ismail. We have Wisconsin. Iowa State versus Wisconsin.
And so, year 5, we were the 2 seed. Wisconsin, who had gotten a lot of recruits that we had been going for the past several years, was going to be our opponent in the Sugar Bowl, which was going to be a big one. This was our year 5. We had put together a really good defensive team. We had a lot of really good offensive weapons, with Evan Mosley being our core piece at running back, and he was a senior. So, kind of an essential piece if you think about having a senior, as we have not taken advantage of every other time that we've made it to the playoffs. Wisconsin was a pretty good threat, though. They had a fantastic running game, as usual from Wisconsin, and had a lot of really good prospects on the defensive side. We even waited for an entire another day trying to get over the frustration in the Kansas State and all the kick stuff to get this game going. And so at the start, they had Tremaine Mast, who was a huge running back. He was a 5-star in year 1, and he had been absolutely dominating for them for this last several years. And so they were really, really reliant on him and their offense. But the big difference from now and the last several seasons was just our ability to actually do something about it. If this was previous years, say like the Louisiana Tech game, we probably would have gotten demolished by this running back. But we were able to force punts. You can see I'm actually manually using the safety so that I wasn't being run over like this. I didn't want to have the roughing the kicker in an actual playoff game.
Emmett Mosley is a 95 already.
And so after a holding call to start off our first drive, we were forced to a 1st and 19, which meant that we had to make some decisions. And Emmett Mosley.
Oh my God. He's so good. What the hell?
Just ran away from the defense.
So we had a 7-0 lead. They were now on the back foot, knowing that we had this advantage, and they had to, try passing the ball a little bit. And our pressure from McIntosh was just something different. It wasn't like we had in earlier seasons. We were able to stop the run. We had great defense, great pressure. We could run the ball on offense, even using Mosley in checkdowns very often in order to kind of take advantage of his speed and skill. And to a point where I felt like we pretty easily dominated this game as Velasquez gets himself down to the 7-yard line. And then we move to a jet touch pass for Frank Trahan, who moves to the outside and gets tackled and dragged into the end zone to go up 14-0. It was pretty big. Having a 14-0 lead in a bowl game was huge, and also having the home field advantage was really nice, so we didn't have to worry about all the other things. And we just got a massive hit on the first play of this kickoff, and another huge hit right there from Mason Miller. The hit sticks were out, and as were the defensive pressure, as we get a big sack from DeMarvin Swain. But on the punt, as usual, when things are going really, really well, something has to go wrong.
No.
But we had one man who was offended by the idea of that ruining our chances.
Never mind. Ah, we didn't pick that one up.
The power and pressure was coming to our advantage as we moved to the offensive side, running out to the outside where Childress was just able to juke past defenders, being able to run all the way down to the 48. And even looking to throw the ball down the field, Childress throws a back shoulder pass to avoid Eckenham getting crushed in the middle of the field. Scrambling to the outside, Childress starts to look for a man and does another 1-foot pass over to Frank Trahan to get the ball all the way down to the 2. And another beautiful scramble out to the right side on 1 foot, throws it to the back of the end zone to get another touchdown. And after Wisconsin is finally able to put a drive up and get to the red zone, they throw a bad pass directly to Quentin Taylor, who picks the ball off and runs as far as he can, trying to juke out the quarterback. A huge interception to just kind of end their run. And on their first drive of the second half, they drop back to pass, and another big interception, this time by Antonio Millerton, who can get pretty far back and almost gets all the way back to the end zone. This led to a Sugar Bowl victory as we win 41-14, kind of an absolute annihilation against Wisconsin, who couldn't do anything, as we now have the ability to stop the run. We can do something special. And that led to a matchup against the third-seeded NC State in the next game, a team that we had lost to the last time we made a deep run. On the other side, Ohio State and Florida State advanced, making a 1-2-3-4, as we now had to play NC State in the Peach Bowl to advance to the national championship game.
Reached the semifinal stage. One last hurdle to clear before that national championship game. And today we're going to find out.
NC State, Iowa State, this was a big one because it's a team that we had lost to previous attempts to make a deep run. Starting the game off, we run the ball with Emmett Mosley, who gets crushed in the backfield, causing him to be a little bit worn down. He's going to come out for pretty much the whole first half, meaning we had to rely on a little bit of a different approach, not being able to run the ball, facing immense pressure, and we had to try to pass a little bit more this game as we went for fourth down right away, getting the ball to Mosley. Thankfully, Carmona was still able to run, even though he normally is a pretty slow running back, but we had a lot of great opportunities. Childress was able to run, getting this way as he broke a tackle and made his way to the 34. And our first big commit, Elias Velasquez, was a huge target in this game as he breaks on the drag route, gets his way all the way down, and scores the first touchdown here against NC State. NC State was going to start with a running attack where they ran the ball through and just got crushed. But it wasn't going to stop them from running the ball as they get a big option play that kind of fools Dylan Brooks, running the ball down the field and getting a first down. Dylan Brooks doesn't like when you make a fool out of him.
And Dylan Brooks is my favorite type of linebacker. Pure speed, loves the hit. That's exactly the type of player that you really want to see. Dylan Brooks is my favorite type of linebacker. Loves to hit people. Pure speed. Can't get the ball and catch it in big situations where you need to get interceptions. This is the type of linebacker you love to build your entire core around in the middle. And we have another teammate, Mason Miller, who does the same thing. It's going to be a great core to work with. Great future NFL linebacker, too. Dylan Brooks is our enforcer. Nobody does it better. That's what you're going to build your team around. Guys that can hit and are fast and can play pass coverage. Perfect.
But a running quarterback will do running quarterback things, meaning we were going to have to adjust our scheme to add a spy to stop this from happening again. Thankfully, we force a field goal, we run safe man to avoid the penalty, and he hits the upright, causing them not to make the field goal. Carmona even finds himself available on a screen pass, which he catches and moves down the field following his blockers to get all the way down to the 50. And when nothing could get open because we don't have much of the running game, we do face a little bit more pressure down the middle. We return to the Verts offense not being able to run and look for something we've never tried with Childress, and he shows us magic.
He's got it near the end zone. Doesn't quite get in, but it sets up a first and goal for the
That is an insane pass. That is an insane pass. Oh my god. The wobbliest pass.
Gerald Childress just seems like the perfect underdog story for us. He doesn't have the throw power of everybody. He's not highly recruited. He's a completely different style of quarterback. In fact, he's not necessarily even a quarterback. He's an athlete, meaning that we get a completely different view than we normally would at Iowa State, where we focus on these gunslingers and play action and just throwing the ball down the field as much as possible. Gerald Childress is different, and I hope that means that he can be something special. Dude, and he can take a hit. Childress is the guy. He feels like a hero just built for this run. And he's only a freshman, meaning how many more years are we going to see where this guy could end up really just making a difference, maybe even being a future Heisman winner.
This is one of the greatest passes I've seen by a quarterback, getting absolutely crushed, still throws the ball 50 yards down the field to Eckenham, hurting his ribs on this play, meaning we were going to have to be a little bit more conservative with him, as we do run a touch pass to Frank Trahan to kind of get him out of the line of fire from their edge rushers. Their scrambling quarterback returns as he moves out on a read option, moving out to the right, where we get a huge hit from Terrion Nichols, forcing a fumble, allowing us to get the ball right back. Mosley had now returned, and we were going to be a little bit more safe with him too, trying to get the ball out of bounds. We wanted to make sure to keep him for the championship game if needed, which meant that we would go to Velasquez here on this pass to get in the end zone. Now up 21-0, it was forcing them to pass more, and they made a big mistake throwing right to Tim Palaele, who gets an interception.
Freshman or sophomore, Palaele.
Gerald Childress drops back, going to a quick route on the bench concept to Ian Ajobo to get a first down. And looking for something else to throw to, hopefully finding Mosley, but it's not going to happen. He scrambles out to the right, running all the way down and getting out of bounds to avoid the big hit. This means we were going to run the ball with Carmona, just trying to conserve a little bit more of Mosley, who gets down all the way to the 1.
To the 1. And Mosley gets in.
On the kickoff, we were up 28-0. This was kind of a beatdown at this point, but that didn't mean that this was going to be over.
Oh, fumble.
Taylor Trahan with the forced fumble. Looking for Carmona, he gets bumped off his route by Frank Trahan, which forces an interception and gives them the ball back like that fumble never happened.
Yikes.
But we still had some pretty good pressure on this drive, trying to make sure they couldn't put a run up, almost getting a sack there, missing with Mason Miller before Dylan Brooks absolutely murders the quarterback.
Dylan Brooks.
Mosley gets the handoff before the end of the half, avoiding all defenders to walk his way into the end zone. And they do make a field goal before the end of the half. But any time is too much time left on the clock when you've got the best kick returner in all of football. Keenan Ismail breaks away easily for a kick return for a touchdown to take a 42-3 lead at the half, which is just going to be an easy victory for us. We are going to go to the national championship game. Keenan Ismail drops the mic to end this game.
Just like that, we win, and we are advancing to the natty. 59-24 after the sim.
They go on to the national championship game and play for that trophy.
And this is a new era.
5 touchdowns for Gerald Childress. Iowa State, Ohio State. Time for the day. Lost to Buffalo. But otherwise, they were dominant most of the season.
Welcome, everyone, to the ultimate game in the college football season. Everything has built to this, the battle for the national championship and college football immortality, a moment that every young football player grows up dreaming about. And it almost feels like we were destined to get to this point. The top 2 seeds of the college football playoff have survived. They've been on a collision course all season long. They've come through the challenges and the distractions, and now they'll fight for that beautiful trophy. As we'll see the number 2 seed in this playoff, the Iowa State Cyclones. taking on a squad from the Big Ten, the Ohio State Buckeyes. For EA Sports College Football, I'm Chris Fowler, joined as always by Kirk Herbstreit. And this is it. 2 teams enter, 1 team leaves here as national.
This was another Big Ten team, meaning we were going to have to worry about a big run game and a heavy pass rush. They went right to their big running back to start off, and we were going to basically try to take this guy out of this game as fast as possible. We played a little dirty. We had Dylan Brooks, we had Mason Miller, big hitters, and we were going to force this guy out as fast as possible. Just going for contact. I promise I wasn't paying them to do this because I wanted to hit them really, really hard. Mosley gets away with a big run to start off this game, just absolutely getting away, but this safety on the right side catches him somehow. But we do fall down to the 5-yard line. But it allows us to go back to mesh, which means that we can find Velasquez in the end zone for a touchdown.
Touchdown, Velasquez.
Touchdown, Cyclones. Man, I really thought they were going
They hand the ball off to Pipkins, one of the best running backs. I think he was second in all of touchdowns for every running back in the nation this year. So we really were just doing what we could to get rid of him as fast as possible. And they were able to get first downs. But Josh Pipkins goes down after a failed block, which allows us to move to the senior backup running back and kind of changes the game entirely. He just didn't have the speed or the agility to get around, and we just had guys able to light him up as Dylan Brooks goes in for the massive hit. It forces 3rd and 12, which allows our middle linebacker, who was originally a tight end, Ty Bolin, to get in for a sack, force 4th and 20. We get the ball back and decide to move a little bit more to this passing offense as we find somebody wide open. However, we underthrow the ball, giving them the ball right back. Pipkins was already back in, so we had to go look for a massive hit, bringing in Surges for a huge hit on him to force him out of the game once again. We get a big interception to get another move as Terrion Nichols is going to bring us all the way back for a touchdown.
Who's going to score on the pick 6? Touchdown, Iowa State.
Pick 6. Terrion Nichols.
A monster play by this defense.
Up 14-0 without Pipkins in the game. This was going to hopefully put us in a good position. However, they still had really good receivers. This was still Ohio State we're talking about. And taking away the run game allowed them to be able to pass the ball a little bit more, which they still were really talented at. We just knew that, we could hit them hard if they decided to run, now being able to stop this. They go with a little fake and allows them to get this big pass down the middle as they start to move all the way to the red zone. They do a surprise halfback pass, but it's not the right halfback in. He overthrows it and throws it out of the back of the end zone. And on 3rd and 4, they throw a terrible lob pass back. It was intercepted by Dwayne Hurt.
It's a short return.
A huge pick for Hurt. That is a 14-0 lead.
And that wasn't the end of it for Hurt, who gets a massive hit on that running back. As just about everybody wants in the fun as Ty Bolin comes in for the big hit on the quarterback. You know who else let's invite to the party? Darren McIntosh, picking him up and throwing him to the ground. On offense, we're finally able to get away from their pass rush, throwing a screen pass over to Emmett Mosley, who does juke around a defender, but is unable to get a first down. And on 2nd and 4, we give the ball over to Kyrie Carmona. After the interception, we were just kind of trying to run the ball a little bit more, being safer once again, even though we could see who was blitzing thanks to Kendricks and Voyashek's abilities on the offensive line. We run our jet touch pass to Frank Trahan, who doesn't get a good block from Ismail, but does get a first down. And now that we know that he could actually hit this verts concept, we throw the ball up, and Gideon Ekanem falls down, catching the ball safely. Getting out of the 4-yard line, we find Mosley out of the backfield and get a touchdown, taking a 20-0 lead over Ohio State in the first half. And with 8 seconds left, they throw a drag route and just leave a wide receiver open for a hospital route with our linebackers in the middle. They go into Hail Mary formation, and the only reason I'm showing this is because Ty Bolin, who was originally a tight end that we were recruiting, gets another sack and gets his 2nd sack of the game, pretty much like his 2nd sack of his career. He was a tight end originally when we recruited him. Made him into a middle linebacker, and he looked pretty good. He's 6'6". Starting the second half with the ball, we hand the ball off to Mosley, who cuts back to the right side, seeing nobody out there. Sadly, Ismail is just not a very good blocker, and that means that we don't get a touchdown, but we do get our way to the 50. And with Mosley a little tired, Carmona comes in and runs to the left, fumbling, which sucks because this was a point to put the nail in the coffin. We give Ohio State another shot. And on the screen pass, Pipkins is back in the game, and Dylan Brooks knows where to go, right for his knees. Mason Miller and Brooks must have money on this game because he comes in and crushes the wide receiver. They must be in some kind of betting game because Dylan Brooks saw the Mason Miller hit and one-ups him with a forced fumble on the quarterback. They try a little bit of a fake, a running back, then to the wide receiver who throws it on his back foot and actually gets it to the other wide receiver. And then they run that halfback pass that we saw earlier with Pipkins, but McIntosh gets the sack. They drop back to pass on 3rd and 6, looking in the end zone, but Quentin Taylor is right there to put a stop to that.
Don't even try Vincent Taylor, man. Don't even try Vincent Taylor.
On offense, we see the blitz coming, and we look for Elias Vasquez, who gets around his defender and moves all the way down to the 40-yard line. And on 4th and inches, Carmona's back in, and Voyashek just hits a huge block to allow him to get a first down. And we get a screen pass for Heath Singletary, a player who we haven't seen much here at Iowa State because of the other running backs. Mosley is out because we also wanted to conserve him because they should be an NFL running back. And a red zone scissor route can be run by anybody, including Kyrie Carmona. The shutout does finally come to an end as they find a wide receiver open on the outside. But it wouldn't matter. And in the end, Iowa State wins the national championship behind Gerald Childress, Emmett Mosley, Gideon Eckenham, and the amazing pressure and defense of Mason Miller and Dylan Brooks, great blocking by Voyashek and Shaq Kendricks, and the defensive back play of Quentin Taylor being a big piece of this as we finally get to hoist the trophy here in Iowa.
And it's very fitting that they not only win it, but they win it in grand fashion.
Well, that's it. Dramatic punctuation to another outstanding season of college football. For Kirk Herbstreit, I'm Chris Fowler, and this has been a presentation of EA Sports College Football. They are officially your kings of college football and national champions, the Iowa State Cyclones.
That's it. We did it.
Ending our season, Childress actually breaks all the single season passing records that Becht and JJ Cole set, as he just also played more games in this season. Frank Trahan breaks a lot of Nagoy's records. We get amazing defense this year as Mason Miller gets almost 100 tackles. Actually, these stats are recorded before the end of the season, meaning that he did get over 100 tackles. McIntosh basically breaks the sacks record for Iowa State. It just ended up being kind of a fantastic year for the Cyclones as we just finally put it together. For our entire 5-year career, we could see that Jaden Bradford, the quarterback for Liberty, did break the passing touchdowns record. And Iowa State records, Cole had the passing yards, Nagoy got the receiving yards for a season, Trahan with touchdowns, Childress with passing touchdowns, and eventually McIntosh did get the sacks record as well, beating Will McDonald's record. And for a career, while it's Rocco Becht who beat all of those, you could see Nagoy with the receiving yards and touchdown catches.
3 first-round picks. Emmett Mosley, Gideon Eckenham, Quentin Taylor Jr. are all first-round picks. Terrion Nichols goes in the 4th. Gadecki and Etienne go in the 6th and the 7th.
And that would be it. That's the end of it. We won our national championship, but it's not like we didn't put them in a bad position. They're a 4.5-star school. They've got young quarterback, still young wide receiving core. The defense is absolutely phenomenal, still developing. This offensive line is great. They brought Voyashek back as well as Shaq Kendricks. The wide receiving core is still going to have the Trahans as seniors and Ismail Velasquez is a senior. And it's just an overall, we did a fantastic job at building a team with a new personality. Offensive line, wide receivers, tight ends, and just a hard-hitting defense. That was the main thing. That turnover-dependent defense became an identity for us, maybe building the next the U. If you consider how much we hit here, these guys would end up being huge NFL players if Mason Miller and Dylan Brooks end up making it to the league in the future. And so that would be it. At this point, we're now looking at what this team could be in the future. Whether or not we should continue and see what we would do. I don't know if there'll be another video on it, but I definitely could stream a little bit further just to see what the rest of this team could end up being. And I hope you enjoyed it.
And so with that, we've done it. We've built ourselves a dynasty, 5 years at Iowa State, and won ourselves a national championship. Running through a rebuild over 5 years is a little bit different than doing episodic content because you kind of have to go a lot faster in order to be able to get through it within a reasonable amount of time, something I don't necessarily always have. Right now I'm at a benefit of this because I am off for the next almost only a couple weeks left here, but beyond that, we're almost never in a position to be able to do this on a consistent basis. Unlike most of the other types of rebuilds that you do where you do 1 year at a time, my goal was to try to create these storylines and actually introduce you to all these different characters, which is different than what I normally see. One of the reasons I did this is because I've seen other people make content and it just felt off to me. Like it felt like we weren't getting a story, which we kind of need to be interesting in regards to college football. My MLB videos don't necessarily have this because we know who all these players are. They've already been introduced, and the recruits that we have, well, they develop their stories later on as we continue to get them because there's so little players. We also can have them for longer extended periods of time. Telling stories and creating narratives is the most important thing to me. I feel like when you're trying to create a video, you want to do something that either hasn't been done or hasn't been done your way, and you can entertain your audience some way. I hope that that's what this ended up being for you, knowing that we had tried a different approach than we normally would in creating this narrative. It might have worked, it might have not. I guess I will never know. I don't necessarily intend to make a lot of videos like this because of the post-commentary nature of this, which I think is interesting. This is an experimental video for me, but it's also not necessarily my style because I feel like we can be more chill and relaxed, and you could hear how fast I had to talk for the majority of the video to make this actually work. And so with that, I thank you very much for coming along, watching this Iowa State video. I hope that you enjoyed it and the unique experience that we hopefully brought for you in that time. So thank you very much for watching. Adios.